Hi everyone, this is What If Fan, bringing you a new fanfic. This is part 1 of What If Natsu Becomes the Guild Master. Please find fanfic name and author name in the description. Please support the author. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Let's start. Chapter 1. The day he found out. Natsu. He opened his eyes to see he was in the forest that surrounded his home. Looking around, he couldn't hear or feel any of the wildlife. Natsu. Looking to the sky, he saw a giant red dragon flying fast in the distance. Igneel? Natsu questioned, not believing his own eyes. Igneel, wait! He screamed, running after his father. He ran for what felt like days, but he never got tired. It was like he had infinite energy. Eventually, Igneel landed on the peak of a mountain in the distance, making Natsu stop at the base of it. Come here, Natsu. There's a gift for you to make you stronger. And don't waste time, boy. Igneel. What's going on? Natsu screamed at the Fire Dragon King, only for the whole scene to disappear in flames. He woke up in a sweat in his bed, his head having something like a map in it to the place Igneel wants him to go. Getting out of bed, Natsu knew he had to do one thing. I'm dropping out of the trials. Natsu could see the shock on his master's face when he said this. Are you sure on this, son? Makarov asked him just to be sure. He already saw Natsu made up his mind. I'm sure, old man. Makarov sighed and shook his head. Okay. I'll replace you with Alzak. May I ask the reason for this? It's personal, I can't really explain right now, I'll tell you when you get back, Natsu said with a smile. Okay, well, I have to go announce the new lineup. The two of them walked down the stairs into the guild hall, which was buzzing with energy for the trials. Happy flew over to them, looking a little worried. How did it go? He asked. It went good. Are you ready to go? He asked his partner. Aye, Happy said. The two of them slipped out of the guild without anyone seeing besides the resident stalker hiding near the door. Everyone listen up. The guild quieted down instantly, and gave the short old man their attention. Today your guildmate Natsu Dragneel pulled out of the S-class trials. He will be replaced if Alzak is willing. The guild was silent for a full minute before people were screaming. That's a good joke, master, like Flamebrain would drop out. Gray spoke up laughing. What I say is true, Gray. Natsu dropped out today and he will be leaving for a personal matter. Makarov said seriously, shutting up Gray. But he was so excited. Lucy said, yeah, master, why would he drop out, and what about Happy? Lysiana said, worried about her husband and son. I'm sorry, I don't know either, as I said before, he said it was a personal matter. The master said, looking a little troubled. Natsu. The guild turns their heads to see an enraged Erza calling for her pink-haired friend. Natsu, where are you? She screamed, looking around for him, scaring people. Erza-san, Juvia saw Natsu-san and Happy-san leave a while ago, the water girl said nervously to her red-haired guildmate. Erza didn't say anything and just ran out the guild, followed by Team Natsu and the Stratus sisters. They ran out the guild all the way to Natsu's house only to find him not there. This way, I smell Natsu-Nisan, said Wendy, running off in the direction of the edge of town. They got there just in time to see the back of Natsu with a travel bag on his shoulder and Happy on his head. Natsu! They all yelled. Natsu turned around to find his guildmates behind him. Natsu raised his hand to say hi, only to be punched in the face by Erza. What was that for? He screamed, getting up off the ground. You were just gonna leave without saying anything, she said, enraged. Well, yeah, he said simply. But why are you dropping out in the first place? You wanted to be S-class more than anyone, said Lucy. I told Master it's personal, and I'm kinda on a time crunch here. He said. But we can help you, we're family, right? Said Lysiana. It's fine, Lys. I promise it's nothing dangerous this time, it's just something I have to do. He said seriously. Then how come Happy gets to go? Said Lucy. She wasn't used to doing things like this without Natsu. She was scared. Because he's my partner. Aye, Happy said with his signature salute. But how am I gonna do this without you? Surprisingly, that was Wendy. She was clutching the ends of her dress, turning her knuckles white. She felt a warm hand touch her head, and looked up to see a smiling Natsu. You're strong, Wendy, just believe in yourself. Besides, you've got Charla the same as I got Happy. Aye. Natsu grabbed his bag from the ground and dusted off. Well, I gotta go, guys. Erza will have a match when I get back. I got the feeling I'm gonna win this time, he said, smiling, making Erza smile too. Of course, I'm always happy to take you on. I'll have fish for you when I get back, Charla, Happy said, waving at the love of his life. I don't want any tomcat, she replied in the usual tone, making Happy smile. It's been 2 days since Natsu left for his trip, and today was the day his guildmates were supposed to be leaving for the trials. The two ran non-stop at Natsu's order the first day, getting further away from anything recognizable. They were currently trekking through a dense forest away from any civilization. So what's up, Natsu? You gonna tell me why we're out in the middle of nowhere now or what? Happy said, fish in his mouth while sitting on Natsu's head. Natsu was surprisingly quiet for a moment before telling him. It was Igneel. It was like he was talking to me in my dream, putting information into my head, telling me where to go. He said there was a gift for me, something to make me stronger. Did he tell you what it was? Is it how to use that dragon thingy? Happy said, not remembering what it's called, just that Natsu looked like he had scales. Maybe he didn't really say. The only thing was that I shouldn't waste any time. The two kept walking, Natsu trusting his instincts and Igneel's words to get him to his destination. Neither of them knew of the news that would change them forever when they got back. 3 days later, Natsu and Happy came across a mountain with a familiar scent on the surface. Dad, he whispers, running his hand along the outside. Is this it? Happy asked, flying next to Natsu. Yeah, it should be, but… Natsu paused and took a deep breath. What the hell am I supposed to do now? He screamed, scaring all the wildlife in the forest. Maybe you should try using your fire on it, Happy said, nibbling on some fish. Ah, good idea, Happy, Natsu said, hitting the palm of his hand. Natsu started to gather magic in his belly, making it swell. Fire dragons roar. Natsu released a spew of flames from his mouth, covering the base of the mountain. When the fire died down, Natsu and Happy could see 2 doors. One was incredibly huge, and the other was for a human. Walking through the human-sized door, it was pitch black, only for it to be lit one by fire lacrima. He looked on the walls around them to see drawings. What is this stuff? Happy said, running his paws along the walls. It looks like dragons. And people, Natsu said. On the walls you could see dragons standing in front of people, and it looked like they were giving them something. The walls were too faded to see anything else. Walking further into the hideout or temple, Natsu wasn't sure. They saw more drawings of people with fire on their hands and fighting dragons. Are these people dragon slayers like me? Natsu asked. The next drawing he saw was one of some riding on top of a dragon fighting another. It looks like it, but why are dragons fighting dragons? The two kept going and saw weapons on the ground, some of them rusted, others broken. Looking closer, Natsu could make out a faded symbol on certain weapons. It was a red circle with a dragon inside. The circle was made of the dragon's tail and wings. Hey Natsu, look, there's some stairs over here. Going over to Happy, Natsu saw a flight of spiral stairs leading upward. Well, let's go. It didn't take long for them to get to the top, and when they did, they were amazed at what they saw. They were in a large room, and on the ground were books. Some looked burned, others were covered in dried blood. But in the middle of the room was a giant ball of fire. It looked like it had a few black streaks in it, and it was producing so much heat Happy was sweating. It looks different from my fire and Igneel's, Natsu comments. Going deeper into the room, he picked up a book and was shocked at what he saw. These are Fire Dragon Slayer spells. Happy picked one up only to throw it on the ground. How can you read this? It looks like random symbols. That's because it's in Dragonic. Igneel taught me when I was a kid, Natsu said, sticking the book in his bag. Natsu picked up a few more books with spells and Dragon Slayer tips. He even found one on the Dragon Force. What is this? He just picked up another book, but this one didn't have any spells in it. It almost looked like a diary. Inside, it read, "It's the year X250. The war has been going on for years now. We have established several safe houses to hide out in response to our ally dragon's betrayal. I've been in this one for 15 days now. The queen is still on the front lines with Belsarion and Sarung. I'll have to cut this log short. It seems the enemy is near." Natsu was confused. What was he reading? A war going on in the year X250 and dragons betraying humans? What is going on here? Picking up another book near that one was another log. The black dragon has appeared. He was stronger than anticipated. He's been killing all dragons no matter the side. Before he could keep reading, he heard a voice in his head again. Eat it. Eat the fire, Natsu. He heard Igneel's voice in his head telling him to eat the fire. Igneel? He looked around and closed his eyes, but he couldn't hear, smell, or see his father. Natsu closed the book and put it in his bag. He walked up to the fire and started to eat. The first thing Natsu noticed was that the fire burned, going down almost like it was too hot for him to handle. The more he ate the hotter his body got, and by the time he was finished, he was burning up. Looking at himself, he didn't feel any different. That was until his body erupted in flames, magic pouring from his body. So hot. Happy said, flying away from Natsu, trying to get away from the heat. Natsu was in awe of himself. He could tell this fire was stronger, that he was stronger. Looking at the flames that surrounded him, it looked like his fire but darker and almost more potent. Before Natsu could marvel at his newfound power, the structure he was in started to shake, and the ceiling started to collapse. "Come on, Natsu, we have to get out of here," Happy screamed, already by the stairs. Natsu picked up one last book, not noticing how his hand burned it a little. He ran down the stairs with Happy flying in front of him. Outside in the forest you could see the mountain shaking, and inside you could hear screaming. "Aha!" From the large door on the mountain, Natsu and Happy burst through screaming. The two didn't stop when their feet touched the ground, running away from the first, as the mountain collapsed behind them. When Natsu and Happy finally stopped to catch their breath, they looked at each other and laughed. "What was that?" they screamed, falling on their backs. When they looked up, they could see the sun was going down, so Natsu decided to make camp. Getting up, Happy could see the grass was burned on where his skin touched it. "Natsu, look, your skin burned the grass," Happy said, pointing to the ground. Natsu noticed and decided to test it by touching a tree next to him. The tree almost immediately started to singe under his touch. "Whoa, sweet," he said, his eyes were shining at that. "But how are you supposed to touch anything?" "Aha. You're right," Natsu said, falling on the ground, rolling over. "Maybe it's magic, try and control it," Happy said. "Ah, right again, Happy." Natsu put his hand on a tree again and started to breathe slowly until the burning started to subside. It worked. Now let's get something to eat. It only took 2 days for Natsu and Happy to get back with his newfound power. Walking through the city, Natsu could see people looking at him and whispering, but he paid it no mind. Coming up in front of the guild doors, he smiled and did his signature entrance. "We're back," he yelled as he walked into the guild. Expecting a welcome, he was surprised to not hear anything, not even a challenge from the popsicle. Looking around, Natsu could see that the guild barely had members in it, but that wasn't the most alarming thing. What really shocked him was the atmosphere. "Hey guys, what's going on? Where is everyone?" Natsu asked. When he said that, people finally looked at him. "Hey Natsu, come sit down," Wakaba said, sounding grim. Natsu usually would say something, but he decided to keep his mouth shut and sit down. "Natsu. There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just gonna come right out with it." Macau to a pause and a deep breath before finishing his sentence. "Tenru Island is gone." Natsu sat there for a second, not really understanding. "Gone? What are you talking about?" Macau sighed and then proceeded to tell Natsu what the Magic Council told them. Natsu sat there with surprisingly no expression on his face. He just couldn't believe what he was hearing. "No thaw, that can't be real," he said, stuttering, his eyes getting a little misty. "That just can't be real." He abruptly got up, yelling, "It is, Natsu. We went there ourselves. There's nothing there." Macau screamed back at him. "Master and everyone else is gone. I know it's hard, but it's the truth," he said, crying. Looking around, Natsu could see the others were crying too. Wakaba, Jet and Droy, Kinana, Lucky, Max, Nab, Warren and Ritas. Even little Romeo. The only person he didn't see was Biska. Natsu couldn't take it, so he ran out of the guild into the forest that held his home, Happy flying behind him. He didn't have a direction in mind, he just couldn't stay in the guild as it was. When he stopped, he looked around to find himself at the hit he and Liz made when they were kids. Like a wounded animal, he crawled inside and cried, Happy right next to him saying something, but Natsu couldn't hear him. This can't be real. Chapter 2. The day he changed everything. It's been a month since the Fairy Tale Guild lost their strongest members and master. People have come by and given their condolences. Other guilds stopped by also. Lamia Scale and Blue Pegasus said they would help them, all they had to do was ask. Their words fell on deaf ears though. The guild hasn't taken any missions since it happened. During the first week, most people didn't even go to the guild. The few times Natsu went to the guild, it was a shell of its former glory. There was no noise, no fights, all signs of the once lively guild were gone, and it enraged him every time. Happy tried to cheer him up, but he could tell that his feline friend was barely holding himself together. The usual light of the guild has barely been eating, and his eyes were red from crying. The more time passed, the angrier he got. He needed to let off some steam. Going to the guild, leaving Happy asleep in their house, he wasn't surprised to see it in the same dull state. He walked straight to the mission board, and he picked up a mission to hunt some wyverns just outside of Magnolia. He walked to the bar and stamped the mission himself and left. It didn't take long for Natsu to make it to the town that requested the mission. Walking into the mayor's office, he saw an old woman with a serene demeanor, something you wouldn't expect from someone whose town is under threat of wyverns. "You must be the famed salamander from Fairy Tale. My name is Rita, nice to meet you," she said, holding her hand out to shake. Natsu shook her hand, making sure his skin didn't burn her. "My name is Natsu," he said, his usual cheerfulness missing. "To tell the truth, I was pretty scared, but I was so relieved when Fairy Tale answered my request," the lady said, smiling at Natsu. In the past month, Natsu forgot what it was like to do something like this. "Don't worry, I'll handle it," Natsu said, simply, no real emotion behind his voice. Walking deep into the surrounding forest, he followed the directions to the wyvern's nest. He came across one which looked like it was out on the hunt. Deciding to not waste time, Natsu immediately leaped into action, his flames moving around erratically, reflecting his rage. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Before the beast could realize it was under threat, it was hit in its side. When his fist made contact, Natsu noticed the difference between his old iron fist and his new one. The way the fire exploded on contact added an extra kick to the attack. The wyvern flew back with a scream, and Natsu could see where his attack hit. The wound was cauterized, but the scales around it were all gone. The wyvern got up and charged at Natsu. The dragon slayer didn't flinch. He readied himself before deciding to try out a move he hasn't done before. The wyvern tried to claw him, but Natsu dodged backwards. Next came a tail swipe, and Natsu jumped over it. Natsu, coming down, aimed his attack at where his heart should be. Fire Dragon's Piercing Claw. Natsu pointed his fingers out in a spear-like shape, the fire on his hand looking like it was sharpened. When the attack hit, Natsu's hand went through with no resistance, and he killed the wyvern almost instantly. Pulling his hand out, it was dripping with blood, but his skin burned it off. Natsu started to make his way into the forest with one thought. More. He wanted to fight more. That fight was too quick. Feeling something around him, he dodged to the left, just in time to avoid being impaled by a tail. Scanning his surroundings, he saw the other 3 wyverns he was hunting surrounding him. Natsu smiled, a bloodthirsty one, something unlike him. He wasn't fighting for that village, or even Fairy Tale right now. He just wanted to burn his enemies right now. Charging with newfound fury, he ran to the closest one to him, dodging under a claw swipe. He attacked. Fire Dragon's Grip Strike. He grabbed the underbelly of the beast, its weakest point, his hand burning it on contact, and exploded it into the sky. Natsu started to charge magic around his body, his flames burning brightly. Around him, the other 2 wyverns were charging him from both sides. He jumped in time to avoid being eaten by both, and shouted his attack. Fire Dragon's Sword Horn. Natsu flew up after the wyvern and headbutted it. When the attack landed, it crushed the beast's lungs and rib cage and burned its body with his surrounding fire. Turning mid-air, he looked down at the remaining enemies, and started to concentrate his fire in both hands. Fire Dragon's Brilliant Flame. Combining both his hands above his head, Natsu created a giant fireball, and threw it down at the wyverns. Boom! The fireball created a huge explosion, turning the surrounding trees and grass into ash. When Natsu landed, the wyverns were barely there. They didn't have any liquid in their bodies, and they had pieces of their skeletons showing. Going back to the town on his way to the mayor's office, people were clapping for him and cheering. Getting in the office, he was greeted by a smiling Rada and a bag of 500,000 jewels. "Thank you so much, Natsu. You've really helped us a lot," she said, shaking his hand over and over again. She had a surprising amount of energy for an old woman. "No problem," Natsu said, his response short and stuck in his thoughts. The woman sighed and handed Natsu the bag of money. "Listen, Natsu. I know you're going through a tough time. I'm pretty sure everyone in Fiore has heard about what happened to your guild." Rada said. Natsu didn't say anything, he just clenched his fist. "You've gone through a great loss and that hurts. But you have to keep going or your friends' lives would be for nothing," she said, and cupped his cheek in her hand. "You're a strong boy, Natsu. I'm sure you'll get through this and be stronger because of it." Natsu still kept quiet, but he nodded his head. When he left, he decided to buy Happy some fish for leaving him behind. When Natsu got back to Magnolia, he went to the guild and turned in his mission. Looking around, he still hasn't seen Biska in the guild. "Hey Kinana, have you seen Biska?" he asked the little barmaid. "No, she hasn't left her house since." "Well, you know," Kinana said with her head down. "Okay, thanks." he said, and gave her some jewels before leaving. When he was walking through the forest, he noticed he was very tired. He was finally able to let out some of the rage he's been feeling, and it must have exhausted him. Getting into his house, he found Happy sitting on the couch. "Yo, Happy," he said with a small smile. "Natsu, why didn't you take me with you?" Happy said, looking angry. "My bad, pal, I just needed to blow off some steam." He grabbed a bag of fish from his bag and gave it to him. "I got you, fish." Happy took the fish quickly. "Whatever, I'll let you off the hook this time," the cat said, nibbling on the fish. Natsu yawned and went to his room. "I'm taking a nap, Happy." Natsu woke up in a forest he knew very well. Looking around, he saw the cave he called home while he was training with Igneel. "You disappoint me, boy." He heard his father's voice coming from the cave. Looking inside, he could see red eyes staring at him. "What are you—" He didn't get to finish his sentence. "How long are you gonna stew in your troubles?" His voice almost made him fall over with how loud it was. "But there's nothing I can do. I wasn't there when they needed me. Maybe with this new power I could've—" Natsu said, clenching his fists, a tear falling from his eye. "But you weren't there, boy, and there's nothing you can do to change that. But everyone, Ursulus, Lucy, even the popsicle, are gone. And what are you gonna do, Natsu? Sit in your home feeling sorry for yourself or actually get stronger? If you weren't so blinded by your own tears, you would be able to see the ones around you. Listen, boy, there's still things you can do for your family. You just have to get back on your feet. If you just sit here, their loss will mean nothing in the end. What can I do? They're already gone. They aren't your only family, Natsu. And if you want to protect the family you have left, you need to be stronger." Before Natsu could say anything else, he was engulfed in flames, and woke up in his bed. When he looked outside, he could see it was dark outside. Thinking back to his conversation with Igneel, he was right, he still had family and they needed him. Knock, 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 knock. Opening the door, Biska was surprised to see Natsu standing there. "Hey Biska, can I come in?" he asked, smiling. She didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let him in. The first thing Natsu noticed was that for a girl's home, it was surprisingly messy. Biska led him to her living room, where it was obvious she was spending most of her time. "What are you doing here, Natsu?" He could tell she hasn't said anything in a while by how her voice sounded. "I came to check on you. Kanana said you haven't left your house since what happened." Natsu told her honestly. "I'm fine," she said. "No, you're not," Natsu replied back instantly. "I know you're not fine because I'm not fine and neither is everyone else," he said, trying to look her in the eye. "Listen, Biska. This whole thing isn't easy. Far from it, actually. This is probably the worst moment in our lives right now, but we have to keep going or everything we've built is gonna be for nothing." Biska looked him in the eye for the first time since they sat down and she was crying. "But how can I go on without him?" she said. Now Natsu wasn't one for love or relationships, but Mira often told him about how people were waiting for Biska and Alzak to get together. Natsu got up and moved closer to her, holding her closer. "Together, of course, just like we've always done. I'm gonna be here, and so is everyone else. Even Kanana sounded worried about you and she just joined," he said with a small laugh and smile. "We're still fairy tale and that means we're still family. And family takes care of each other," he said, looking her in her eyes and running her back comfortingly. Biska cried for the second time since she learned of what happened. One thing she noticed was how warm it was in Natsu's arms. When Biska stopped crying, Natsu prepared to leave. "You should come to the guild tomorrow. I'm gonna set us straight," he said, trying to get up, but Biska held him tightly. "Can you stay at least until I fall asleep?" she asked bashfully. "Of course, anything you need, Biska." Biska stayed there in Natsu's arms until she drifted off to sleep, having a peaceful dream for the first time in a month. When Biska woke up, Natsu was gone, but the thing she noticed first was how good she felt. She doesn't remember the last time she slept that well. Remembering Natsu's words from yesterday, she decided to go to the guild today to see what he had planned. Natsu was in the guild sitting at the bar with Happy. He already informed his partner of what his new goal was, and he was completely on board. Looking around, he could see everyone was in the guild today, even Biska, which made him smile. Turning to face the guild, Natsu opened his mouth to speak. "Listen up, you guys," he screamed. Everyone, shocked by the noise, all turned to Natsu with questioning eyes. "I know we're all going through a tough time right now, but we have to start to move forward. We haven't taken a mission in over a month, and the only thing people come to the guild for is to drink and pass out. I mean, look at Droy. He's getting fatter by the day," he said, pointing at the plant user, making some people laugh. This ain't going to be easy, but the way we are now, I'm sure our guildmates would be disappointed in us. We have to look to the future and become stronger for them and for us." He could see some people nodding their heads with him and Biska smiling at him. "Well, how do you suppose we do that, Natsu?" Wakaba asked. Natsu looked around, and he could see people were looking for answers. "Well, I know none of us will like it, but we need a new master." As soon as the words left his mouth, people started to whisper and look around. "Any suggestions?" he added on. "I nominate Natsu." Biska spoke up from the back. Natsu was shocked, and before he could say anything, little Romeo spoke up. "Yeah, me too. He's the strongest in the heart of the guild, just like the old man always said." One by one people started to agree, and even though some doubted it because of his mindset, they knew he could learn. "Wait, are you guys sure about this? I wasn't really applying myself," Natsu said nervously. "Yes, Natsu, we're sure you embody fairy tale, and if you hadn't said anything, we would just be sitting here wallowing in despair," Makao said. Natsu was getting ready to decline again, until he thought about what Igneel told him last night. "There's still things you can do for your family." "Fine, I accept," Natsu yelled, putting his finger to the sky, making everyone else do it too. "My first order of business, let's have a party tonight," he said, and everyone cheered. "Kinana, things are gonna get hectic tonight, think you can handle it?" he asked the round-faced barmaid, smiling. She blushes a bit before answering. "Yes, Kina," she said, her verbal tick returning in her excitement. The night has come and the fairy tale party is in full swing. Natsu called guilds, and now Lamia Scale and Blue Pegasus were there. Everyone was having a great time, and Natsu was happy to see the guild have a bit of his old charm. Natsu was surprisingly not in the mix. He was sitting at the bar thinking about his new responsibilities and plans for the future. "You really did it. You set him straight," Biska said, coming up next to him. "Yeah, I didn't expect to be a guild master though. I just wanted everyone to start moving forward," he said. "I think you'll do good, Natsu. I believe in you. The way you already lifted everyone's spirits today is proof," she said. "I sure hope so." The night went on, and one by one people passed out from partying too much. Natsu locked the guild up and left with a sleeping happy on his head. Walking to his home, Natsu smelled a familiar scent. Turning around, he was surprised to see a beautiful purple-haired woman standing in front of him. "Do you happen to cross-dress?" Natsu asked, remembering her scent from Gondola Island on that masked bastard. "Yes, I was transformed at the time. My real name is Ultir," she said, smiling a little. "Yeah, well, why are you here, Ultir?" Natsu asked kinda rudely now that he knew she really was that bastard. Abruptly she bowed in front of him. "I'm here to apologize. I was a part of Grimoire Heart and I harmed your guild," she said sincerely. "I'm willing to accept any form of retaliation in response to that." After she said that, she felt heat engulf her. Looking up, Natsu had put his cat down and lit his body with fire. He slowly walked towards her with an expressionless face, unnerving Ultir. He readied his hand to strike her, and she closed her eyes waiting for the pain, but it never came. "Apology accepted," he said, smiling at her. She was confused. Wasn't he angry at her? "But why? I harmed your friends and tried to kill them," she said. "Yeah, but you didn't. And from my understanding they kicked your asses in the end, right?" He laughed, imagining that. Ultir just looked at him, eyes wide, not believing what she was hearing. "I'm the end." She started to laugh hysterically, tears falling from her red orbs. "You're a strange man, Natsu. Really, I think I'm pretty normal. Besides, most bad guys don't apologize, and the master always preached second chances. So as the new one, I'd like to stick to those words," he said calmly, his mind drifting to old memories. "What? You're the fourth master of fairy tale. The most hated mage of the Magic Council," she said, starting to laugh again. "Yeah, well, I didn't really apply for the job. Well, anyway, do you want to join?" "Join? Yeah, fairy tale. Like I said, we give second chances. Plus, we could use new members," Natsu said seriously. Ultir thought for a moment, and she did think the offer sounded appealing. She just couldn't accept right now. "I can't. Sorry, Natsu," she said sincerely. "Well, the door is always open. See later, Uel," he said, and proceeded to walk to his house. "See later, Natsu," she said quietly. It's the next day in the guild, and Natsu opens it to find everyone still asleep from last night's party. He stepped over people and went to the master's office. His new office, and looked around. It was mostly just useless paperwork, some bills and council notices. He found a picture of the guild years ago when Happy first hatched. Natsu's eyes started to get misty, but he willed himself not to cry. He had to be stronger now. Looking around, there was nothing really important in the office besides a few pallets he needed to sign after becoming the official master. That made him remember they had to inform the council of his new status, something he wasn't looking forward to. He eventually found what he was looking for. The key to the basement, which only the master had. This was what he needed before he put into motion his new plan. 30 minutes later, the guild was full of its members and their guests were gone. Okay guys, for my first order of business I say we. Everyone was on the edge of their seats waiting for what he had to say. Burn down the guild hall. What? Natsu, what are you talking about? Why would we burn down the guild? Asked Macau. Yeah. I thought we were supposed to be looking towards the future, not giving up, said Jet. This is exactly what we're doing. We need a fresh start. This guild is the old us. We will build a new guild in the honor of our newfound hope and strength. With this we will grab tomorrow with our own hands and literally build our future. Natsu said so enthusiastically that some people shed tears and couldn't stop them. So are you with me? Yes, master. The guild all agreed, and 30 minutes later they were all outside of the guild with all their important belongings with them. What have you idiots brought me out here for? Poor Lyusica asked irritatedly. You were an important friend of the old man's and you've helped us out countless times. I thought it was only right to have you be here for this. Natsu said. She didn't really understand what he was talking about but could tell he was serious. Okay guys, this is the end of a chapter for Fairy Tail. And it may have ended on a dark note. The Fairy Tail Guild holds light, and we will shine brighter than ever in the memory of our family and for our own hope for the future. We never give up because we're number one, he said, and raised his hand in the fairy tale pose. We're number one. Natsu lit his hand on fire, and with slight hesitation he lit his guild, his home ablaze. Behind him you could see everyone still with their hands to the sky shedding tears, but that all had smiles on their faces looking forward to tomorrow. Chapter 3, Closing a Chapter. It's been 3 months since they burned down the guild and decided to build anew from it. The process was greatly increased thanks to Laki and her wood make magic. Right now, they have 2 floors done, and they are working on the last 2 now. The whole project was being funded by their new master and his life savings. Speaking of Natsu, he was in his temporary office practicing his signature with an amused Wakaba and Macau over his shoulder. Natsu was now the official guild master of Fairy Tail, and that meant having to sign official documents for the guild. His announcement that he was the new master went over exactly as he thought with the council. A bunch of outrage and disbelief. No, that looks like chicken scratch, Wakaba said laughing. To be fair, it's way better than when we started, Macau added. But that ain't saying much, Wakaba said, making the 2 burst into laughter. Okay idiots out. Natsu told them, fire coming from his mouth. The 2 of them scurried out of the room laughing their asses off like 2 kids. Master. What? Natsu said irritatedly, only to look up at a surprised Bisca. Oh, I'm sorry Bisca, I was just riled up because of the old idiots. Over the course of the last 3 months he and Bisca had gotten pretty close. He was really worried about her, so he used to stop by her house all the time. The 2 of them often traded stories of their life before Fairy Tail. He doesn't go as much anymore though. But Natsu noticed everyone was closer. Bisca, Kinana, and Laki formed their own little group considering they were the only ladies left. Max and Nab started taking a few missions with Jet and Droy now also. Natsu thought it was great, and helped with the next step in his plan to make Fairy Tail even stronger. Don't let him get to you, Natus. Besides, they were just joking anyway, Bisca said. Your signature looks way better than a month ago. I'd say it's passable with the council. Really, I've been practicing at home too. I know I'm not the smartest, so I really want to get this right, Natsu said. Truth is, he's been worried about his position and if he'll do good in it. As of right now, he's just been saying some of the first ideas that came to his mind. I speak the truth, Natsu. Besides, you've been doing a great job this far, way better than I thought. Don't stress too much, Bisca said truthfully. Oh, way better than you thought, huh? Did you lie when you said you believed in me? Natsu said teasingly. What? No, of course not. Ha 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 ha. Don't worry, I'm just kidding. Thanks for saying that back then, it meant a lot. Still does, he said, smiling at her his unique smile. Bisca stared at him for a second before smiling herself. Always Natsu. Night has come and all the members went home for the day. The only people in the guild were Natsu and Happy. They made good progress on the guild. If it keeps going like this, then it will be done in a month. Natsu decided today was the day he was going to look in the basement. When he got down there, it was surprisingly organized. Looking around, he found books on fairy tale history, and Happy found some on magic theories he decided to keep. While looking around, he tripped on a lamp and fell, hitting his head on a wall in the process. "Ow, god damn it," he yelled, grabbing the back of his head. "Whoa, Natsu, look," Happy said, pointing to where Natsu hit his head. Looking at what he was pointing at, Natsu could see a keyhole appeared on the wall. Natsu tried to touch it, but it shocked him. "Fuck," he screamed, grabbing his hand. "Maybe you should use the key." "Don't you think I know that, Happy?" Shaking his head and grabbing a key from his pocket, he stuck it into the wall. Natsu heard a noise, and then the wall proceeded to fall in the ground, revealing a flight of stairs that led deeper into the basement. Natsu could feel magic seeping from the bottom. He and Happy started to walk down them, and when they got to the bottom, they came across a door that had a keyhole on it. He reached his hand out to try and touch it, but was shocked again. "God damn it, maybe you shall. I know." He stuck the key inside, and the magic dissipated, and they walked inside. It led to a white room, but what he saw inside almost made him fall over in shock. "Happy, do you see what I see?" he asked breathlessly. "Aye," Happy said, dropping the fish he had in his hand. Inside of a lacrima was the first guild master, Mavis Vermilion. Back upstairs, Natsu read almost all the history books of his predecessors, and none of them mentioned what he just saw. And even if Natsu wasn't that smart, he knew what that meant. This was a secret kept by all the masters, a secret he now had to keep. "Happy, you can't say anything about what we saw. This is our secret now," Natsu said, looking at Happy very seriously. "Aye, sir," Happy said, looking Natsu in his eyes to show he was sincere. Natsu nodded his head and went for the book he found in the room Mavis was in. When he opened it, light shined from the book, blinding him. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't in his office anymore. He was just in some white space. Looking around, he saw a green-haired man walking towards him. "If you're seeing this, it means unfortunately the last master for some reason wasn't able to tell you about fairy tale's greatest secret, fairy heart." Natsu sat there and listened to the story of how fairy tale came to be, and how Mavis came to be put inside that lacrima. "I don't know your name or how long it's been, but if you're the master, I'm sure you love fairy tale. That is fairy tale's light and secret weapon. You must protect it. I wish you luck." When Natsu opened his eyes, he was back in the office. "Natsu, what happened?" Happy asked. "You blacked out for a second." The first thing Natsu thought was only a second. It felt like he was there for a while. The second thing was, should he tell Happy? He ultimately decided not to. This was his burden to carry as master. "I'm fine, pal, let's keep reading." It's been a month and a half since Natsu found out about Fairy Heart. The new guild hall is done, and it looked amazing. The first floor held a bar, the mission board, and the infirmary. It also had a new stage for their performances and announcements. The second floor is a communal one. It had a library, a game room, a pool, and of course, a bar. The third floor was for the S-class, which they didn't have any of at the moment. It also was where Natsu's office was located. But the fourth floor was the most important to them. The room held a garden of a variety of flowers. In the middle of the room was a small pond, and inside it was a gold fairy tale symbol. On it you can read, "The Tenru team lives on in our hearts," and this symbol. And engraved on it you could see the names of everyone who disappeared on Tenru Island. Natsu was proud of himself and his guild. Every day he could see everyone's spirit being lifted, and since the guild was done, he's never seen them so happy. Walking downstairs, he could see everyone smiling and patting each other on the back. When they noticed Natsu, they all greeted him. "Master," they said at the same time, and even though calling him that still made him uncomfortable, he smiled. He walked to the bar where Lucky was helping Kinana with her work. "Hey girls, meat on fire please," he said, smiling at them. "Coming up, master," Kinana said, a big smile present on her face as she went to prepare it for him. "Thanks for all your help, Lucky. Things wouldn't have gone this smooth without you," he said, talking to the wood mage. "It was no problem, this place is home to me too," she said sincerely. Natsu just stared at her for a moment. "You're pretty cute when you say stuff like that," he said, laughing a little. Lucky pushed her glasses up with a serious tone. "Are you becoming a pervert, master?" Natsu started to sweat and smile nervously. "What? No, I'm just complimenting you." She looked at him, a blush slowly rising on her face. Well, thank you, master. Here's your food," Kinana said, as she came back from the kitchen. Natsu grabbed his plate excitedly. He devoured his food in one bite. "Thank you, Kinana, your food is amazing," he said, making her blush as well. Ooh Natsu, when did you become a flirt? Happy asked, flying over to them, his tone mischievous. What are you talking about? Natsu asked, confused. I'm talking about… Before Happy could finish his sentence, he was punched by a wood fist coming from the ground. Ah! Natsu decided not to ask why Lucky did that for his own safety. Looking around at the smiling faces of his guildmates, he could say he accomplished his first goal of lifting the guild's spirits and having them look towards the future. Now it was time for his next objective: regaining their lost strength. Natsu walked to the stage and grabbed everyone's attention. Everyone. They all stopped and looked at him. It's safe to say after this we have a future to look forward to now. I'm proud of all of us for all the hard work we put in to make our new guild. And I'm sure the old man would be too. Everyone cheered. Now it's time for the next step, and that is regaining the strength we lost. And for that, I am shutting down the guild. Just like last time Natsu made a big announcement, the guild was engulfed in silence. What? Why would we do that? Jet asked. Yeah. What was the point of building this new guild if we were just gonna shut down? Droy added. One by one, people started to question what he was thinking. Shut up! He yelled, raising his magic power, shaking the stage. We lost all of our S-class mages and most of our A-class. Fairy Tail isn't even half of what we were. I know this may be asking a lot from all of you, but I need you all to push yourselves. Everyone was silent and listening to him, and most agreed. We all need to get stronger than we ever thought possible if we want Fairy Tail to survive. And in a year's time I want us all to come back here, and we're gonna show everyone who's doubting us that Fairy Tail will be stronger than ever. The guild erupted into a cheer, making Natsu smile and let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. We'll set off tomorrow morning. I don't care if you go off on your own or with a group, just come back here in a year. When night came and everyone was gone, Natsu was about to be on his way home as well when Biska grabbed his attention. Wait Natsu, she asks. What's up Biska? Natsu stopped. Can you do me a favor just this once? Natsu found himself in Biska's house. He sent Happy home alone. So what's this favor? Biska decided to not beat around the bush and just come right out with it. Can you sleep with me tonight? She said, blushing. Like mate? Natsu asked with his head tilted to the side. What? No, just sleep Natsu, just sleep. Biska didn't think Natsu knew what the other meaning of that phrase meant. Okay sure. He agreed fastly. The two walked into her bedroom. Natsu took off his vest and scarf and sat them down on her dresser. Biska went to the bathroom, and when she came out she was out of her usual clothes and was in a nightgown. Natsu stared at her for a second, but otherwise he wasn't really fazed, but Biska was blushing up a storm. The two climbed into her bed, and Biska wrapped her arms around him, soaking in his warmth. The two sat there in silence for a minute before Biska broke it. Do you have any place you plan on going? She asked softly. No, not really, just travel. What about you? I'm thinking of going back west. There's a famous gunsmith there. I'm hoping to upgrade mine. Biska said thoughtfully. You sure about that? I heard you didn't have the best time out there, he said with concern. Yeah, I'm sure I'm different now. I have something that means something, and I'm not just living to survive anymore, I'm living to live. And I want to get stronger to protect my new life, she said, determined. Natsu turned so he could look at her and smiled. You're an amazing person, Biska, he said, laughing. Biska looked at him and smiled back. You're just now realizing that. I always thought that, but now I've really been able to see it, he said. Now the two were facing each other. Natsu's hand moved down to the small of her back naturally. Really? Well, I gotta say you're pretty amazing too. The way you motivate the guild is incredible. I think we're gonna be just fine with you at the helm, Master. Natsu didn't know what it was, but the way she said the last sentence stirred something inside him. He pulled her closer so their faces were almost touching. Biska made a noise of surprise at his action. Wah! Her mouth was covered by Natsu's with vigor. Her eyes widened for a second before she returned the kiss. Natsu ran his hand over her butt and gave it a squeeze before going down to her thigh and caressing it. The gunslinger moaned at this action. The two of them came up for air eventually, and when Natsu went back in for more she stopped him. Natsu looked at her questioningly. I'm sorry, I can't. She had small tears in her eyes when she said this. I'm not ready yet. It's fine, Biska. She looked at him, a little surprised, considering she could feel him on her lower half. Just sleep, remember, he said, smiling. Biska nodded and snuggled back up to him, closing her eyes. Just sleep. The next morning it was bright and early. and the guild was all outside, bags packed and ready to set off. Kanana and Laki decided to go with Biska. Wakaba, Macau and Romeo are going somewhere. Max and Nab decided to pair up, and so did Jet and Roy. Lastly, Ritas and Warren paired up also. Okay guys, this is it. Once we come back here in a year, that's when the new chapter of Fairy Tail begins. One by one, every team set off until it was only Natsu and Happy left. He looked back at the guild and smiled, shedding one tear from his eye. I'll be back later guys. Let's go Happy. Chapter 4, A Year's Time, Part 1. It's been 2 months since Fairy Tail was temporarily closed. Rumors spread from Magnolia, and now Fairy Tail has been closed for a multitude of reasons. In a village near the town of Gazena, whispering was going around one of the only places to get food and drink. In a corner of the dinner was a salmon-haired boy, and a blue cat eating fish and meat having a discussion. So you're trying to find magic that suits you? Natsu said, his mouth stuffed with food. Yeah, something that's for me. I want to be able to help you out more, and the guild is my family too. I want to contribute. Happy said. Natsu could see the fire in his son's eyes when he said this. I'm proud of you, Happy. I'm sure you can do it. Natsu said, stuffing his face some more. Has anything caught your eye yet? He asked. Not yet. The basement had some books on transformation magic, so I'll start there. Happy said. Do you know what you're gonna do? Natsu took time to swallow the rest of his food this time before answering. I'm thinking we go north. Happy looked at him confused. Why north? It's so cold up there, he said, shivering at the thought. Exactly. That's why I want to go. The two of them finished their meal, still ignoring the whispering of the people around. Walking out the door, it was still midday. Natsu decided to make more ground to his destination. The two were pretty deep in the forest before Natsu stopped walking. You can come out now, he said. Out from behind the trees came a blonde and black-haired boy with 2 exceeds. Natsu dragged Neil. I'm here to beat you and prove I'm better than you. The blonde-haired boy said. Yeah, you got this, Sting. The red-haired cat named Lecter said. Frosh thinks so too. The pajama-wearing cat spoke up. Natsu looked amused at this whole Happy thought the sea sounded familiar. My name is Sting Eucliffe. I'm a white dragon slayer, and I actually killed my own dragon, making me a true dragon slayer, Sting said arrogantly. Natsu lost the amusement he felt when he heard that. He didn't get to say or do anything because he was attacked. White dragons roar. A white beam came from the boy's mouth, striking Natsu head on. Oh yeah, I knew you could do it, Sting. The red-haired cat said. Was there ever any doubt? Sting asked. His nose pointed to the sky, radiating arrogance. Was that it? Is that all the power of a true dragon slayer? Natsu said. The smoke around his body disappeared. How are you? Sting said nervously. Natsu started to raise his magic power, heat coming off him in waves. At this point, Sting and the black-haired boy were on their knees. I doubt you could kill a dragon with that roar, Natsu said, walking towards him. I did. Rouge was there, and he did it too, the boy stuttered. Yeah, we killed our dragons with our bare hands? The boy known as Rouge said. Natsu raised his power some more, making it hard for the boys to breathe. Don't lie to me, you two barely have enough power to beat a Vulcan, let alone a real dragon. So how about you tell me what really happened? A few minutes later, all of them were sitting down on nearby logs. The two boys told him about their past and how they killed their dragons. Natsu could hear the regret in their voices, but otherwise he felt they were telling the truth. I believe you guys, he said. Natsu still thought it sounded strange, but they were telling the truth as far as he knew. Natsu-san, is Gagel really gone? Rouge spoke up, sounding glum. Natsu was quiet for a moment and looked to the sky and sighed. Yeah, he is, he said softly. The boy clenched his fist tightly and shook his head in disappointment. Do you think I could be stronger than him? He asked the older slayer. Maybe the monkey-face bastard was pretty strong, but anything's possible, just don't give up and you never know, Natsu said, smiling at him. Except for you though, Sting, you'll never be stronger than me, he said, teasing the blonde-haired boy. Sting got up fuming, his hands turning white. Take that back, you pink-haired bastard. A vein appeared on Natsu's forehead with that comment. It's salmon brat, he said, putting Sting in a headlock. He started to give him a noogie, making the boy have tears in his eyes. Okay, I'm sorry. Later you could see Sting and Rouge waving Natsu goodbye as he went, and Happy continued their journey north. I promise, Natsu, I will beat you one day, Sting yelled at his retreating back. I like that kid, Natsu said to his partner. Reminds me of you, Happy said, amused. Natsu just looked at him confused. Really? Another 2 months flew by in Natsu and Happy's training. Natsu decided to work on his magic control considering everyone always told him he couldn't do it, and he made leaps and bounds in his progress using the books he found in that weird hideout. He even made some new spells. Speaking of, he finally got around to finishing that log of the Black Dragon. The soldier wrote that Acnologia wreaked havoc on both sides of the war, killing allies and enemies with no discrimination, ultimately ending it when he killed the lead dragon on their side. He also learned that the queen was someone named Irene, and the kingdom was called Dragnov. It was hard for him to get through the Black Dragon log without burning it to ashes at the thought of him. He didn't tell Happy, but he really wants to kill him one day. Thinking of Happy made him think of his son's progress. He finally mastered transformation magic, where now he can change into a human form. It was a little weird at first seeing him like that, but he got used to it quickly. He even made him start working out with him. Happy hates it but does it anyway. Happy. The two were currently walking through a small town to continue on their journey north. Grrr. The sound of Natsu's stomach growling hit their ears. Let's get some food. They went around and found a noodle shop. Sitting down, Natus ordered a beef bowl while Happy ordered a fish one. Before the two could even take a bite, they heard screaming. Help! Someone please help! Peeking their heads out the stand, they saw a little boy running down the street looking terrified and frantic. Everyone was ignoring him and didn't particularly look fond of the boy. The boy locked eyes with Natsu and ran to him immediately. Mister, please help me. A lady has been kidnapped. He said, small tears in his eyes. She was playing with me, but then she fell over and said she was hungry, and then some scary guys appeared and took her. Please, help her, he said frantically. Please, help. Natsu raised an eyebrow at him before he ate his food almost in one bite. Lead the way, kid. The boy smiled and started to drag him out of the stand. Wait, Natsu, my food, Happy screamed. Just take it with you or leave it. I already paid. Happy tried to eat it all in one bite, but he almost killed himself. Stupid Natsu, he said, choking, running after them. The boy led them to what looked like a rundown mansion in the forest. The walls and the porch had veins and grass growing up it, and the windows were broken and boarded up. Is this it? Natsu questioned. Yeah, I followed them after I ran away. They didn't seem interested in me, the boy said, gripping the tree tightly. Okay, stay here, kid. Happy. Make sure he stays out of trouble and out the way. Aye, sir. Nodding his head, Natsu started to make his way to the mansion. Since innocent people are inside, he decided not to just blow the place up. Walking up to one of the walls, he could smell booze and hear the people inside. Man, that was a great find today. With this we have enough to sell. He heard a man laughing. Yeah, I just wish we could test the merchandise. They all laughed when the guys said that. Slave traders, Natsu said softly, gritting his teeth. Thinking about slaves made him think of Erza, and that got him angry. He started to heat up. He placed his hand on the brick wall of the mansion, and little by little the rock started to melt under his hands. What? The first victim couldn't even speak before Natsu broke his jaw and sent him out the other half of the mansion. Who are you, bastard? A big guy spoke up, rocks gathering over his fists. I'm the guy that's gonna kick your asses. Natsu charged into the room that held about 20 people. The first one to reach him was the one with the rock fist. He threw a punch at Natsu and he caught it. Natsu gripped the man's hand, breaking the bones inside, making him scream only to be shut up by a fire-coated fist to the chest. The next one tried to kick his legs only for Natsu to jump over it and kick his head into the ground. Using the man on the ground as a springboard, he jumped into the next enemy and punched him in the face, hitting other people as a result, sending them all out of the building. Is this all of you? Natsu asked the remaining men standing in front of him. What if it is? A nervous one asked him. Natsu smirked. Good. Fire Dragon's Roar. He sent out his signature attack, making the people widen their eyes, but it was too late. They were all burnt to a crisp. The blast kept going, and carried them out into the forest. Natsu tried not to kill them, but he could care less, not like they deserved to live anyway. Walking around, Natsu found some stairs leading to a basement. Walking down them, he found cages with girls of all ages inside. Some of them looked beaten, and others starved. When he looked at them, they flinched away and pulled back deeper into the cages. Natsu put on his best harmless smile. It's okay, I'm here to help. Grabbing the bars of the closest cage, he burned them off before doing the same to the rest, freeing the girls. When he got to the last one, he saw a familiar face. Miliana, he said before he hurriedly burned the bars off and pulled her up. What happened? What are you doing out here? He asked her. Natsunia? She asked, opening her eyes. Yeah, it's me. I was just hanging out here for a while with my new friend when I met this kid. We were playing, but then I got hungry and passed out, then I woke up here. She said. What are you doing here? I'm here to rescue you apparently, he said. Millie jumped into his arms, almost making Natsu fall over. You're my hero, Natsunia. I was so scared, she said, rubbing her face on him. Stop crying on me, he said, carrying her out the cage. The other girls didn't dare leave without him and waited for him to be done. Natsu walked up the stairs, a dozen girls behind him, and a cat girl in his arms. When he got to the top, he was shocked to see a random girl running into the destroyed fifth floor of the mansion. She had purple hair and a sword that was sheathed. Miliana, she said calmly, but you could hear worry there too. She eyed Natsu like she was seeing if he was a threat or not. But seeing how her cat friend was rubbing her face on him, she guessed he wasn't. Kagura, Millie said, jumping out of Natsu's arms and only to fall over in hunger again. Sue, hungry, she whined, making Kagura and Natsu shake their heads. Natsu took all the girls to a restaurant and bought them all food. He quickly came to realize just how much starved girls and Emiliana could eat. He also called the council, and apparently those guys have been kidnapping girls from all over. They should be here soon. That was so cool, mister. You were all like fire dragons roar. And then boom, they were cooked. The boy from before said, excited. Natsu came to find out this boy's name was Luke. He had silver hair and red eyes. He looked to be about the same age as Romeo. Do you think I could do that someday, huh? The boy kept going. Who knows, kid? The future isn't set in stone, anything is possible. He told him the same thing he told Rouge those 2 odd months ago. The boy had stars in his eyes. Ah, thanks Natsunaya, that was amazing, a stuffed Millie said, patting her stomach. Wait, are you Natsu Dragneel, the new master of fairy tale? Kagura said, shocked but almost like she wanted to talk to him. Yeah, that's me, he said, smiling. By the way, who is this girl? Natsu said to the cat girl, who looked like she was about to pass out. Oh, this is Kagura, Simon's little sister. Natsu pushed in shock before looking at an expressionless Kagura. Then he thought about Simon. His eyes popped open in shock. Simon had a little sister. Yeah, I know, right? She was saved by Urza when Simon was taken. I met her while she was looking for him, the cat girl said, looking down a bit. And what were you two doing out here? Natsu asked curiously. We were traveling and getting stronger so we can accomplish our goal, Kagura said, gripping her sword tightly. And what's that? Happy asked, oblivious to Kagura's bloodlust. To kill Jalal, she said. Her eyes were shadowed by her hair, and they burned with hatred. To kill Jalal? Natsu asked, almost confused. Yes, I hate him with all my being for killing my brother, for making him a slave, she said, gritting her teeth so hard Natsu could hear them grinding against each other. Natsu was quiet for a moment. He thought about his own dislike for Jalal and all the pain he caused his scarlet-haired friend. He couldn't say for sure he would ever really forgive him, but he knew Urza wouldn't like it if he dedicated his life to getting revenge on the guy, and he had a feeling she wouldn't want that for these two either. I think you should give up on that, Natsu said seriously. What are you talking about, Natsunia? Why should we after everything he's done? Miliana said, outraged. Listen, I'm not saying you should forgive him, I'm not even sure I will. But dedicating your life to get revenge isn't something Simon or Urza would want for either of you, he said. And what would you know about what my brother would want? Kagura said, looking ready to attack Natsu. I don't, he just didn't seem like that kind of guy. Even in his last moments he used all he had to protect what was important to him, he said, looking Kagura in her eyes. The purple-haired girl's brow furrowed a bit more, her anger rising. That doesn't matter, she's gone now too, Kagura said spitefully. Yeah, but Urza wasn't the only thing important to him. Miliana was, and so were you, Natsu said, looking at the two of them. Besides, there's a lot more to life than just chasing after someone to kill them. I mean, what are you gonna do after you kill the guy? Will that be all your life, was just killing one man? Natsu said seriously. Shut up, the girl screamed, making the whole restaurant get quiet. What would you know, huh? Simon was the only family I had. What else is there for me in life when the most important thing is gone? Huh? She screamed at him with tears in her eyes. Trust me, I know what it's like to lose your only family. I tried and tried to find him, but he never came back. And now the new family I made is gone too, so I know. But I still have their memories here," he said, pointing to his heart. "I think you two should join Fairy Tail," he said, looking at both of them. "What?" they said at the same time. "Yeah, I won't make you two give up on your revenge or anything, just do it at Fairy Tail. Like I said, there's a lot more to life than just killing a guy. You've been a slave since you were a kid, Miliana and Kagura. You've been searching for your brother for so long only to find him dead," he said, making the two of them look down and think about his words. "I want you two to try and really live, and I'm sure that's what Simon would want," he said, smiling. Kagura got up abruptly, her expressionless mask back on. "I'll think about it," she said, and walked out of the restaurant. "Guess I'll think about it too. Plus, I get to see the cute Nico again," Millie said, not knowing he was right in front of her. "Good, come by if you decide to join. We're reopening in 8 months," Natsu said, waving goodbye to the cat girl. "You think they're gonna join?" Happy asked. "I hope so, Happy." The two sat in silence until it was interrupted. "Can I join?" Looking over, they saw Luke still sitting there. Eventually the Magic Council showed up and took the guys that were still alive away, and the girls back to their homes. Natsu was currently saying goodbye to Luke to continue his journey north. "Bye, Mr. Natsu. Next time you see me, I'll be a mage and I'll join Fairy Tail," the boy promised. "Okay, I'll be waiting, kid." The boy ran back to the edge of town, going straight for a worn-down house. He burst through the door, almost breaking it. He woke up the only other resident in the house. A black-haired boy with red eyes like Luke's walked out his room. He looked to be about 13. "What are you doing, Luke?" The silver-haired boy smiled at him. "I'm going to join Fairy Tail." "What?" A month passed before Happy and Natsu reached the icy borders of the north. They were now in the middle of a blizzard, and even Natsu could feel the chill on his skin. "It's so fucking cold," Happy screamed, bundled up in 3 coats. The two kept walking, only to start to hear rumbling. Looking at each other, they started to sweat despite the weather they were in. A few moments later, you could see Natsu and Happy running from an avalanche. "Happy, you idiot!" Natsu yelled at his partner. Happy was in tears, running next to him. "I'm sorry." They kept running, only to hear a person's voice behind them. "Oh yeah, this is awesome." Turning behind them, they could see a teenage boy, maybe 15, in shorts and a vest, snowboarding down the avalanche. This was the beginning of Natsu's and Happy's time in the north. Chapter 5, A Year's Time, Part 2. Biska, Kinana, and Laki were in a city in the west, walking through busy streets. They arrived in the west around a month ago. They could find the gunsmith Biska needed to see and had to find the guy, which took a full month. They were making their way to a spot he's spotted quite frequently. During their journey, they all followed Natsu's words and pushed themselves. For the first 4 months, Laki and Biska, on top of their own training, were teaching Kinana how to use magic. She learned how to harness her magic power pretty quickly, which surprised them, but what shocked them more was the fact she was able to use poison smoke. They asked her if she used magic before, but she said she couldn't remember. The three arrived at the entrance of a famous casino called the Aunt Revolver. Before they walked in, Laki spoke up. "Are you sure this guy is gonna be here?" she asked, pushing her glasses up. "I don't know, but from what we gathered, he is very addicted to gambling, and this is his favorite casino," Biska replied, shaking her head in frustration. "And we have this drawing, Kinana said, pulling out a drawing. It showed a man who looked to be in his mid-20s. He had black short hair and glasses, and what looked like a tattoo on his neck. As they were looking at the drawing, the doors to the casino opened, and someone was thrown out. Lowering the drawing, they all saw what looked like the man they were looking for. Looking at the drawing again, they raised an eyebrow. Lowering it again, they leaned in closer, and started at the man on the ground. "Are you the famous gunsmith Griffin?" Biska asked. The man on the ground fixed his glasses and looked up at them. He got up quickly and put his hands up, smiling. "Listen, ladies, I don't know what problem you might have with me, but I already settled my debts," he said, sweating nervously. "No. I want you to make some guns for me," Biska said, her face showing confusion. Griffin paused for a moment. When he looked up again, he had stars in his eyes. "You have money?" Yes?" she answered in a question. "Okay, well, come with me," he said, and started to speed down the street. The three watched him with various degrees of shock on their faces. "You sure we can trust this guy?" Laki asked. "He seems strange," Kinana said. "Very strange." Around the same time in the north, Natsu, Happy, and the mystery snowboarder were resting after the avalanche, the blizzard still raging around them. "That was so fun," the snowboarder said. The boy was a few inches shorter than Natsu was. His hair was big, and it was an icy blue. Phew. Happy almost screamed, but Natsu covered his mouth. The human cat kept talking even with his mouth covered. "Be quite happy, I don't want to run from another avalanche," he said. The cat took a few deep breaths and calmed down. "Who are you?" Natsu asked the boy. "I'm Fubuki," he said, smiling. "What were you doing riding an avalanche? And why are you in shorts?" Happy asked. "I'm on a journey to end this eternal blizzard," he said, smiling. "What do you mean?" Natsu asked, confused. "It's a long story. Let's get some shelter." The snow around their feet started to move. It molded over them, forming an igloo-like structure, shielding them from the storm. Happy and Natsu clapped in amazement. The North has been in an eternal blizzard for the past year. It's the result of some beast that grew strong. "I'm on a mission to kill it and end the blizzard," he said excitedly. "A mission? Are you in a guild?" Natsu asked him. "What's a guild?" Fubuki tilted his head, confused. "You don't know what's guild is?" The question at the same time. Natsu explained what a guild was, and what they did the whole time. The boy had stars in his eyes. "Wow, that sounds like fun." Natsu smiled at him. "Yeah, it is. But how come you don't know what a guild is?" In response, he told them what his life was until now. Fubuki grew up in a village deep north. He was raised to be the next chief by his father, but he never wanted it even though he loved his village. The blizzard was a big problem, hurting them, so in response his father told him if he could kill it he would be relieved of his duty. "Wow, so you're gonna kill it?" Happy said, nibbling on frozen fish. "Yup." Natsu punched his fist excitedly. "Sounds like fun, can we help?" The boy shook his head, his face getting serious. "No, my father said I had to do it alone. So that's what I'm gonna do." "Do you want to join Fairy Tail?" Natsu asked him suddenly. The boy looked at him confused. "Fairy Tail?" he asked, cocking his head. "It's my guild. It's closed right now, but we're looking for new members and I think you would fit right in." "Really? It sounds fun, but if I don't kill the beast then I won't be able to join, you know," he said, sounding kinda disappointed. "I think you'll beat it. And when you do, think about it. We're reopening in 7 months. Okay. I promise when I kill the beast I'll join Fairy Tail," he said, bumping fist with Natsu. The three went their separate ways after that. A few days later you could see Fubuki standing on a snow mound. The wind around him was blowing violently, his vest blowing hard. He was staring down at what looked like a giant white wolf. "Well, this is it." He smiled in remembrance, thinking about the promises he made. "I never asked that guy's name." About a day before Fubuki found the wolf you could see Happy and Natsu trekking through deep snow. Natsu was training his control by keeping them both warm, while not melting the snow around them. "Do you think he found that beast yet?" Happy asked Natsu. "Who knows, we'll just have to wait until the storm is done." "Do you really think he could do it?" Natsu was silent for a second. "Yeah, I do. He was really determined when he told us he didn't want our help. Besides, he promised, right?" Happy looked at him for a moment. "When did you get so wise, Natsu?" the cat asked his father. "Wise? What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about what you told Kagura and Miliana. Or the guild," Happy told him. "That stuff. I've just been saying what I think, or stuff the old man would say. Besides, I've always been this wise," Natsu said, his nose up in arrogance. When he didn't get the usual sarcasm he looked to his left to find his partner there. "Happy?" he asked, looking around. "Natsu," he heard him. Looking around he saw a hole where he used to be. With our thinking he jumped down the hole. The fall wasn't long. When he hit the ground he could feel concrete. If it wasn't for the light from outside peeking in, he would be able to see anything. "Natsu." He looked to his side and saw Happy laying down on a pile of snow. He looked to be all right. "Where are we?" Happy asked, sitting up. "I don't know." Lighting his hands on fire, Natsu could see they were in a long hallway. He started to walk down the hallway. Happy got up and started to follow after him. He found a few torches that he lit along the way. As they were walking they found a few doors. When they opened them they could see old animal bones. "What kind of place is this?" They kept walking and found a large double door. Opening them they found a room full of books. Around the room they could see different elements in bottles and containers. "Whoa!" they said at the same time. A book stood out to Happy and he went to pick it up. Opening the book, a note fell out of it. Picking it up, Happy was surprised at what it said. "If you're reading this, it means I'm dead. This book contains my life's work." I've been trying to make a new magic revolved around summoning. This book takes people's thoughts and transforms them into things to summon, be it beasts or weapons. The boon can only have one owner, and when they die it goes back to being just a book. To become its new owner, open your thoughts to it and summon something. When he finished reading it, Happy was awestruck. This is what he was looking for this whole time. It was the thing that would allow him to help Natsu and the guild. He didn't know what he meant about opening his thoughts or whatever, so he just thought really hard about something while holding the book. Without him noticing, the book started to change from black to blue. On the front of the book, a red gold symbol of a dragon with cat whiskers appeared, and then the book opened. Happy spoke out loud, alerting Natsu. Summon. Flame Fairy. From the pages of the book, a fairy on fire appeared, and started to fly around. Opening his eyes, he saw a gobsmacked Natsu and a fairy. Happy what is that? Natsu sputters out. Happy just smiled excitedly. My new magic. They started to dance around the room, the fairy flying between them, giggling. I can't believe you did it already. Happy sat down and looked at the book. He could see the other pages were blank besides the flame fairy. It had a picture of the fairy he just summoned, and even the name and a few notes. He turned around to see Natsu, only to watch as he fell through a shelf of books. Natsu. He ran to the bookcase only for a barrier to push him away. He summoned the flame fairy, and it shot a fireball, but it did nothing. Natsu! Natsu grabbed a book and the bookcase opened and he fell in. He heard Happy call for him, but he couldn't tell from where. He was falling for a while before he hit the ground. When he gathered himself, he could smell blood around him. Looking around him, he could see he was in a big space. In the dark, he could see eyes staring at him hungrily. He didn't have time to think before a bear pounced on him. He was pinned to the ground, but he flipped him over, dodging his head getting bit off. He had no time to rest as a wolf jumped at him. Natsu used a quick iron first and took its jaw off. He could feel dozens of beasts around him. He smiled excitedly. This could be fun, he said, his body going up in flames. A flying one-eyed beast flew down and tried to swipe him with its talons. He donged and hit it with a fire dragon's roar, killing it. From behind him came a claw swipe from a long-armed creature with a skinny body and a long face. Natsu uses his flames to blitz the creature and crush its chest with his knee. Looking around, he could see all the beasts circling him. Horned bears, Vulcans, and even winged wolves were all getting ready to pounce on him. He smiled and decided to try his new technique. Fire Dragon's Flame Commandment, Eruption. From Natsu's feet, fire started to shoot out, covering the room. The beast started to roar in pain, but the attack wasn't over yet. From the flames, pillars of fire started to shoot up, hitting all of them. When the attack was done, Natsu looked around to see all of them burnt to a crisp. Wow, that worked better than I thought, Natsu said, looking at his work. Now let's get out of here. As he was looking around for a way out, he sensed danger behind him. Rolling quickly to the left to watch a lightning bolt hit the wall, turning around. He saw a beast larger than every single one he just killed walking towards him, lighting sparking around it. Where were you hiding? Natsu said. He smiled and rushed the monster. Flames in my right hand and flames in my left. Fire Dragon's Brilliant Flame. Natsu sent a large fireball at the lightning beast. The attack did damage, but it wasn't enough to kill it. Natsu charged up an iron fist, but it sent lightning at him, forcing him to dodge with his fire. Unexpectedly, the beast jumped into the air and rammed him. Natsu flew into the wall, the lighting burning his cloak a bit. Before he could get, a bolt was sent his way. He didn't have time to dodge. Fire Dragon's Shield. A wall of fire appeared and blocked the lightning. Groaning, Natsu got up. He ran at the beast, dodging more lightning before he arrived under it. Fire Dragon's Flame Pillar. A pillar of fire shot from Natsu's body, hitting the beast. It was lifted up into the air, roaring in pain as its underbelly was being burned. When Natsu finished his attack, he was sure it was dead. But he was wrong. From the darkness, it started to rain lightning, striking everything in the room. Natsu couldn't dodge, so he put up his flame shield. It couldn't take all the strikes and broke. When the lightning hit Natsu's, he felt it compared to Laxus in power. He screamed in pain. He was struck 2 more times before it stopped. The beast landed growling, its body burned and bleeding. Natsu was on the ground, paralyzed, and could move well. The beast saw its prey and started to charge a kill shot. When it sent the attack at him, time slowed down for him. He couldn't dodge, and he couldn't bring up his shield. Natsu kicked himself for his stupidity. He should have kept his guard up, but he got cocky and wanted to try new moves. Looking at the attack coming, he decided to try something dumb. The attack hit him with an explosion, destroying the ground he was on. The beast roared in victory, and it started to walk towards its kill. When it got over the hole, something shot out. It worked. Ha ha ha. If only Laxus could see me now. Natsu laughed in shock and amazement. Looking at him, Natsu was now covered in fire and lightning. He could feel his magic draining rapidly and decided to end it. Lightning flame dragon's roar. A roar of fire and lightning came from his mouth, and when it hit the attack, blew a hole in the beast, killing it instantly. When he finished, he turned off his new power, and he was breathing heavily. That was a lot, he said, dropping to one knee. The room he was in started to shake and collapse. Ah, fuck. Above him, Happy was still in the room trying to find a way down there when the whole thing started to shake. The flame fairy beside him started to make worried noises. I can't leave him, Happy said, but the ceiling fell down and he had to run out of the room. Happy gritted his teeth and ran down the hall to the hole they fell in. He jumped out. Making it out, he watched as the snow started to cave in. Natsu! He screamed. He had to wait till it stopped before he rushed over. The snow was too hard for him to dig. The flame fairy started to attack the snow, but it wasn't strong enough. Happy dropped to his knees, tears falling from his eyes, clawing at the snow. No, don't do this to me, Natsu. I can't lose you too. I'm not that strong, he said, banging on the snow. From under the snow he could feel rumbling, and he jumped back just in time to dodge a flame pillar hitting him in the face. His father jumped out, covered in dust and a bit of blood. Man, I thought I was done for, Natsu said, laughing in relief. He turned to see Happy there crying. What's wrong, Happy? What's with the waterworks? He didn't get a response before he was pounced on by him, and he was crying. I thought you were gone, Happy cried out. Natsu just patted his head comfortingly and smiled. Like I'd leave you behind. You're my partner, remember? He told him seriously. Looking around, Natus noticed the blizzard was gone. Hey, looks like he did it, huh? Happy looked around, just now noticing the change. Oh, yeah, I guess he did. Do you think he's really gonna join? Well, he did promise, didn't he? And he didn't seem like the kind of guy to break his promises. A few days before, in the West, Biska and the girls were on their way to Griffin's home. He led them to a red light district on the outskirts of the city. It was surrounded by thugs and brothels, with many homeless people looking for handouts. The people seemed to be acquainted with Griffin. Some people looked at him with respect, others with fear, and the women admiration and lust. You seem to be famous around these parts, Biska commented, her eyes scanning for danger. She had a nervous Kinana hiding behind her back, while Laki looked around at everything with disgust and pity. Griffin laughed a bit before responding. Not really, I just grew up around here, he said somberly. They soon arrived at a worn-down home. Next to it, an older black-haired woman with a few gray hairs smoking a cigarette on her balcony spoke up. Lost your money again, Griffin, she said, laughing. Well, you know my luck, Miss May, he said politely, smiling at the older woman. Well, can't be that bad if you have 3 beautiful girls with you, she said cheekily. Griffin scratched the back of his head nervously as he felt the auras of the girls behind him. No. They're just clients, he said, sweating. The lady just smiled. You 3 don't give the boy a hard time, okay? May said. The 3 smiled politely. Of course, ma'am. They walked inside to see a fairly messy home. The dishes weren't washed and clothes were everywhere. Laki even stepped on a woman's underwear. Meow. A black cat walked out of what was presumably his bedroom and jumped into his arms. Nix, how have you been, girl? The cat meowed again before scratching his face up. Ow. Okay. I'm sorry, I should have come back sooner, he said, pulling the cat off his face. Let me feed her real quick and we can talk. After Griffin fed his cat, he walked him to the back of his home where they found an elevator. Stepping inside it took them down for about 5 minutes. When they stepped out, they were inside a large smithing room. The smell and metal and powder entered their noses immediately. Looking around, they could see guns of all kinds on the wall and even some knives. Bullets plied on the ground and in buckets. Welcome to my workshop. Now let's talk business, he said, having a serious air about him. He walked over to a desk and sat down behind it. What do you want me to make? Biska raised an eyebrow at his new attitude, but decided to just stick with what she came here for. Using her magic, she summoned all her guns. Her sniper, her rifle, her shotgun, and her trusty pistol. I want one of each type, please. Inspecting the guns, he scoffed at the quality. That will cost you, you know, he said, looking up at her. I'm willing to pay anything. she said with nothing but determination in her voice. He had stars in his eyes at that. Anything reasonable, she added, making him slump over. I want one too. They turned to see a soft-spoken Kinana. Kinana, where is this coming from? Biska asked the younger girl. I just want to be stronger and I think this could help me. It's why I came with you, she said sincerely. Well, what kind of gun do you want? Griffin asked her. Anything you think would be a good fit for me, she said, looking at him. Griffin just stared at her for a bit before nodding his head. Well, including her, I could have your order done in about 5 days a week at the latest, he said, surprising her. She didn't think they would get them until the end of the month. That's more than okay. We'll talk about money after I'm done. Now out, I like to work alone. 6 days quickly passed and the girls showed up to his again, saying hi to the smoking lady in their way in. Laki fed the cat before they went down to the workshop. When they got down there, they saw a sleeping Griffin at his desk. Walking to him, Biska called his name. Griffin, she said. He didn't respond. She said it again, but he still didn't say anything. Laki made 2 wooden hands and clapped them together, making a loud noise. Griffin jumped up, out looking around frantically. How did you girls get in here? He asked, adjusting his crooked glasses. You left your door open, Laki responded. Look, besides that, are you finished? Biska asked impatiently. Yes, he said. He pulled the cover that was on his desk and revealed his work. When they laid eyes on them, even Laki was in awe at his handiwork. On the table were the 6 guns that Biska asked for, and they looked amazing. Hey, I asked for 2 machine guns, not 3 pistols, she said. Griffin sighed and shook his head. These 2 are machine guns, they're just smaller, plus the more magic you add to them they shoot even faster, he said, pointing to the smaller red guns. Biska made a face of surprise. She held them, and they were as light as she expected. Aiming it at one of the targets he had set up, she squeezed the trigger a bit. The bullets flew out faster than she anticipated and shredded the wooden target, the guns, and a surprising amount of power. You're saying they can shoot faster than that? She asked, almost fearful. Yep, he said, smiling. He picked up another revolver. This time it had a vertical double barrel. This one's for you, little lady. I tried to make it lighter for you. Kinana held the gun, the weight of it making her gulp. She aimed it at a target, and shot. A loud bang rang out, shocking all except the creator. The target was completely destroyed at that one shot. Kinana's hands were aching after she shot the gun, but she was smiling at the prospect of getting stronger. Add your magic to it, Griffin told her. Doing as he said, the gun started to turn a vibrant purple, leaving only the middle silver. Thank you, Kina, the purple-haired girl said, bowing her head to him. Whoa. No need for all that, you're a customer, it's my job, Griffin said, waving his hands. So, how much? Biska asked him. Starts appeared in his eyes at the question. Well, the girls were back at their hotel. Biska looked pretty depressed while Laki and Kinana were just looking at her with pity. Almost all of it gone, she said quietly. I wonder how Master is doing, Kinana said, making the other 2 look at her. Knowing him, he's probably gotten himself into trouble a few times already, Laki said, laughing. Yeah, it follows the guy, but he's been more mature since taking the position. He's become a real man quickly, Biska said. Thinking about him made her think of the night before they left. Her face started to brighten almost instantly. The other 2 noticed. Oh, does someone have a crush on the Master? Laki said, teasing her. Biska started to blush harder, but she noticed Kinana had a blush too. It ain't like that, besides Kinana's blushing too, she pointed out. Kinana turned away. Not you too, Kinana, you're only 14, Laki said, shaking her head. You 2 are hopeless. A guy makes a few speeches and turns the guild around, throws a few compliments, and you turn into jelly. I mean, come on, no matter how good his body looks, or how cute he looks with that salmon hair, you 2 shouldn't fall so easily. Biska and Kinana were just looking at her like she was crazy. Who said anything about his body? Biska said. Or his hair? Laki froze and looked at them like she'd just been caught. The 2 girls smiled deviously. Does Laki have a crush? They asked in a sing-song voice at the same time. Over in the north, 2 months passed since the blizzard stopped, and Natsu and Happy gained their new abilities. Happy has been pushing himself ever since he thought he lost Natsu. He's now able to summon 4 fairies, those being fire, water, lightning, and wind. He also carries a myriad of new spells, both attack and defense. Natsu, on the other hand, in response to his son's progress, has made great strides in using his new mode and controlling it. Doing so, he also increased his overall magical capacity and control. They were currently resting after a day of training. This is going better than expected, huh, Happy? Natsu said, clamping down on their dinner. Yeah, it is, Happy said, eating his fish. As they were eating, they heard footsteps making their way to their camp. Looking over, they saw a man with black hair and a black and white outfit walking towards them. Have any food to spare? He asked politely. Natsu knew something was off, but he offered him some anyway. The man sat down by the fire with them eating, and ate the food with vigor almost unbecoming of the vibe he was giving off. Thank you. I haven't eaten in days. When I saw your fire, it really gave me hope, he said, smiling at them. Natsu narrowed his eyes at the man. What are you? He asked, confusing Happy and apparently the black-haired individual. What are you talking about? You reek of death, Natsu said seriously, putting Happy on guard. The man just smiled before looking at him again. Very perceptive, that dragon's nose of yours, he said, amused. I'm Zeraf, he said nonchalantly. Natsu and Happy widened their eyes, jumping up. Hey, calm down, I'm not here to start anything. I could have killed you two a long time ago, though I must say, Natsu, you're stronger than I thought. Natsu looked at Happy and signaled him to sit back down. Happy did so with caution, but otherwise went back to his fish. So, what are you doing here then? Natsu asked him. Just here to check up on you. I heard what happened to Fairy Tail, and I also heard we're its new master. Just wanted to see how that was going for you. Natsu's head started to ache, almost like something was clawing at it from the inside. Yeah, well, we're doing just fine, he said, not showing any discomfort, in a strong testament to his willpower. Well, that's good. It was nice seeing you, Zeraf said, getting up to leave. You know, I only heard half the story. Natsu chose his words carefully in front of Happy. Zeraf looked confused for a second before he smiled. I have high hopes for you, Natsu, the black magician said, then he vanished without a trace. Weird, even though he reeked of death, he had something underneath it all. Happy looked at him confused. Like what? Natsu shook his head. I don't know, it was just familiar. His head started to ache more, and his vision started to blur. The last thing he heard was Happy call for him. Waking up, Natsu could see he was in the woods. They looked familiar to him, but he couldn't really put his finger on it. Suddenly, black fire started to envelope the woods around him. From the flames he could see a being. He could only make out its outline, but he could hear it clearly. Try not to waste my time when we meet, the being said mockingly. Ha 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 ha. It started to laugh ominously, almost scaring Natsu. Abruptly he was out of the forest fire and back at the cage where he trained with Igneel. Igneel. He didn't get a response, but he felt a wave of warmth come from the cave, comforting him. His back started to burn, and when he turned around he could see the bald flames were back and burning the surrounding forest bit by bit. A wave of dark red fire came from the cave and clashed with the black flames, creating a huge explosion and a blinding light. Natsu woke up breathing heavily and gripping his chest in pain. Natsu, Happy said, giving him some water. He drank it and took a few deep breaths. Slowly the pain went away. Are you okay? Happy asked worriedly. I'm fine, buddy, don't worry about it, he said, smiling reassuringly. Natsu never told Happy about his weird dream of the pains that sometimes appear in his chest and head. Sometimes it felt like he forgot something and just could remember. He never had any more dreams of the black flames again throughout the rest of the training period, which was good, as he threw himself into training to forget about it. It's been 3.5 months since then, and Natsu and Happy were packed ready to head back to Magnolia. Ready, pal? Natsu asked his partner. Aye, sir. The two took off, Natsu using his fire, and Happy sprouted bigger wings to suit his human form. Natsu knew when he got back the new chapter of Fairy Tail would begin, and boy would it be an eventful one. Chapter 6. Starting a new chapter. It took a week for Natsu and Happy to get back to Magnolia from the north. Natsu decided to stop at the town where Miss Rita was to thank her for what she said to him. Happy was back in his cat form, lying on Natsu's head. It feels good to be lazy again, he said, sighing in relief. Natsu just shook his head as he walked through the town. A kid ran up to him excitedly. His mother was behind him. Mr. Natsu, are there more wyverns? Take me with you, this time I can help, the boy said, throwing punches in the air. His mother and Natsu laughed at him. No, nothing like that. I'm here to visit the mayor, he said, smiling. The woman pulled a grim face at his words. I have bad news, Mr. Natsu. Natsu and Happy arrived in front of a hospital room. Natsu takes a deep breath before he opens the door to find Rita holding a baby in her hands. "Miss Rita," he said softly, getting the woman's attention. "Oh Natsu, good to see you," she said smiling. The window was open, blowing her hair with its breeze. If Natsu could describe her right now in one word it would be resigned. "What are you doing here? I heard Fairy Tale was closed," she asked with a hint of disappointment in her voice. "Yeah, I closed it down temporarily. As the new master I thought we needed time." She smiled at him, her disappointment gone. "I came to say thanks. If it wasn't for your advice I don't know what the guild would be like," he said, his words coming out strained. "Oh, you don't have to thank me, I was just telling you what I thought. It was you who made the change, remember that?" She smiled at him. The room was silent for a moment before Natsu turned his eyes on the baby. "Is that yours?" he said, looking at the baby. Rita laughed at his words. She then blushed and rested her cheek in her palm. "Oh, you flatter me so much, Master Dragneel. Who knew you thought I was so sought after at my age?" she said teasingly. Natsu looked confused for a second, and you could see him putting the pieces together. "Oh no, you are beautiful for your age, but I noticed they have the same scent as you," he said, not really understanding his words. Natsu wasn't lying when he said this. Her face was very beautiful with wrinkles you couldn't see until you were close to her, but even when you did they just added to her appeal. Her hair shaped her face very well, and her body was still curved in all the right places, while her aura gave off one of a strong but caring woman, all around very attractive. Rita actually did blush this time and laughed again. "You're so funny, Master Dragneel. This is my granddaughter. Her parents, my daughter, died during the wyvern attacks. I've been taking care of her since then." Natsu got closer to the baby. The child stuck his hand out at him. Natsu put his finger on its hand and the baby giggled. "Is it a boy or a girl?" he asked. "It's a girl. Her name is Kaori," Redia answered, watching the interaction. Happy waved his tail in her face. The girl laughed and grabbed his tail, pulling him down. "Ah, Natsu, help!" The cat screams. Abruptly Rita started to cough hard. Natsu went to her side immediately, rubbing her back. She grabbed a towel on her side and covered her mouth. When she removed the towel it had blood covering it. The mood in the room grew somber. The only noise being heard was the hospital equipment and the baby's laughter. "How long do you have?" he asked grimly. Rita smiled at him unbothered. 2 months, 3 at most," she told him. Natsu clenched his fists and took a deep breath. "The guild doesn't open for another 3.5 months. I'll come by every day, okay?" Rita looked at him surprised. But she shook her head no. "You don't have to do that, Natsu," she told him. "I know, but I want to, so I will," Natsu told her simply, smiling at her with comfort. 2 months passed quickly. Natsu kept his promise and visited her every day, Happy always with him. The two often took over handling the baby, and that made them sleep overnight in the hospital more than once. Natsu took her and the baby out as many times as he could, and the sight of the 4 of them became common in the town. They were often compared to a family, which never bothered them. Rita always laughed, and Natsu just ignored it. They were able to move her back to her home for the last month. She didn't want to spend her last days in the hospital. Natsu was currently laying with her in her bed, the baby in her crib sleeping. Happy was on a solo mission. He said he wanted to test himself. "How are you holding up?" she asked him. Natsu looked at her confused. "Shouldn't I be asking you that?" Natsu said. She laughed at him. "Yeah, well, I saw the circles under your eyes. You haven't been sleeping," she said seriously. "I've been taking care of the baby, that's all," he said, eyeing the child out of the corner of his eye. "You're very attentive to her, huh?" she said, cuddling up on his chest. If Natsu noticed or cared about her action, he didn't show it. "I guess I grew attached. Being with her reminds me of old times," Natsu replied, smiling, thinking about a certain hut in the forest. Natsu started to feel a wetness on his chest. Looking down he saw Rita crying. "What's wrong, Rita?" he asked, wiping her tears. The woman laughed. "It's just funny, at my age I realized I still want to live some more," she said, laughing more as her tears came out harder. "These past 2 months with you have been great. I couldn't have asked for more, thank you, Natsu." Natsu tried not to show how hurt he was too as he comforted her. "Like I said, I'm doing this because I want to. You don't have to thank me. I wish I could do more for you," he said, smiling at her, rubbing her back. She looked up at him, and thought about something she knew was selfish. "Natsu, could you grant me a request?" she said, her voice timidly. "Anything you want," She climbed on top of him, surprising Natsu. "Could you hold me tonight?" she asks with need. Natsu cocked an eyebrow and tilted his head. "I thought I already was," he said, confused. Rada laughed at him. She leaned in and whispered what she meant. Natsu's eyes widened, the tiniest blush appearing on his face. He smiled at her before answering. "Like I said, anything you want." Natsu leaned in and kissed her, shocking the older woman. Following his instincts, he flipped her over so he was laying on top. He held both her hands in his, pinning her down. When Natsu removed his lips from hers, he bit her bottom lip, growling with hunger. Rada blushed and smiled nervously. Natsu started to kiss down her neck, nibbling and sucking every so often, making her moan in pain and pleasure. He stuck his knee in between her legs, rubbing her flower, making her moan out loud. "Oh, Natsu!" He eventually got to her stomach and her panties. Before he removed them, he looked at her for confirmation. She nodded her head silently. And Natsu got to work. Oh my god. After an intense session, you could see a worn-out Rada laying on a relatively fine Natsu, other than a few beers of sweat going down his body. For a dying old woman, she had a surprising amount of energy. Huff. Huff. "That was amazing, Natsu. Where did you learn those moves?" she asked as she drew circles on his chest. "That was my first time. I was just doing things that came to mind," he said nonchalantly. Rada jumps up, not bothering to cover herself. "What, and you were okay with giving it to me?" She was worried she forced him to do something like that. "Yeah. What's wrong with you?" Natsu questioned her, confused. Rada blushed, embarrassed. "Well, I'm old enough to be your grandmother. I'm sure you have young, beautiful women throwing themselves at you," she said, her head down. Natsu lifted her chin up so she would look at him. "Like I said before, you are beautiful, and besides, I don't see what the big deal is. If the situation were different, you would be an ideal mate." She laughs in shock at his words. Over the last 2 months, she learned about how Natsu grew up, and it's always funny to hear him talk like that. "You're serious?" she asked him, feeling like a young woman in love instead of a dying old one. Natsu yawned and pulled her down back on top of him. "You're beautiful, strong, and caring, why wouldn't I?" he said simply. She closed her eyes and smiled. The last month was eventful, to say the least. That night wasn't a one-time thing, and whenever Rada got a moment alone with the Dragon Slayer, she pounced on him. She often made Happy take care of the baby by himself, so she could have Natsu alone. Not that he minded. Speaking of the baby, she always kept the Dragneel pair busy. It's like she had boundless energy. Whenever Natsu wasn't with Rada, he was playing with her or taking care of her. Natsu and Happy were currently at her bedside again, the Dragon Slayer holding her hand as she struggled to breathe. "Hang in there, Rada," Natsu told her. Happy was just sitting there crying. He had grown to really like her over the last 3 months, plus she always gave him great fish. The woman just smiled at him, a stray tear running down her cheek. "I'm sorry, Natsu, my time is up," she said, and coughed. "Is it okay if I ask you another request?" "Like I said, anything," he replied immediately. She smiled at him. "Can you please take Kaori with you and Happy? She has grown very attached to you two, and vice versa. I know it's a lot, but..." She didn't get to say anything anymore, as Natsu and Happy interrupted her. "Of course I'll take care of her like she's my own." "Aye, sir. And I'll be there to make sure he doesn't mess up," Happy said cheekily. "Hey!" Natsu yelled at him, punching his head. Rada just laughed at the two's antics. She grabbed Natsu's hand in hers. She stared at him with love and adoration. "I can't put into words what this last month has meant to me, Natsu. You became my greatest joy and my biggest regret. You're certainly going to make a woman very happy one day. Or women. I don't think just one could handle you," she said, laughing. Happy looked confused for a second before realizing what she meant. "Oh my god, did you too?" he said, looking between them. Redia made a noise of surprise at his voice. "Oh dear, Happy, I forgot you were there," she said. "Chiche. Not funny," he said before a look of realization appeared on his face. "Does that mean all those times you left me alone with Kaori you were mating?" The woman just laughed at the cat before she started to cough violently. "Rada." When she stopped coughing, Natsu could feel she was almost gone. She signaled Natsu to come closer. When he leaned his face in, she captured his lips, tears running down her face. She slowly pulled away, smiling. "I love you, Natsu," she said softly, and passed away with a serene smile on her face. Natsu finally let his tears flow after she passed away, not wanting her last moments to be sad. "What are we going to do now, Natsu?" Happy asked, his own tears freely flowing. 1 week passed and you could see Natsu and Happy standing in front of a gravestone with Rita's name on it. Natsu had Kaori in his arms, the baby playing with his scarf. Goodbye Rita, I'll come visit when I can. Of course I'll bring Kaori and Happy with me too. He sighed before he started to walk away. Tama on Happy. On her grave you could see a pot with a small flame coming out. That fire would never burn out or fade away, just like the memories Natsu would keep of the woman. With the last 3 weeks before Fairy Tale was officially reopened, Natsu ran some errands. He firstly went to poor Ryusuke and asked her to check on Kaori. The woman was shocked that he had a kid but otherwise did the checkup without complaints. She has a soft spot for kids. He secondly cleaned his home and bought clothes and a crib for the baby, and drew up plans to remodel it for more space. He lastly made sure everything in the guild was in order. He was currently sitting at the guild bar reading a newspaper and eating meat on fire. Kaori was beside him in a baby chair making a mess of her food. And Happy. Natsu, can you please stop her? It's hard to get baby food out of my fur, the cat complained. Natsu just ignored him and kept reading the articles about Fairy Tale and how they are a shell of themselves. Well, show them, he said, laughing maniacally. As he kept reading, he came across something interesting. Criminal Jelal Fernandez was broken out of prison by Ultier Milkovich. They are now wanted, and if you have any information on him, talk to the Magic Council. Natsu didn't particularly care about Jelal, but he was a bit worried about Ultier. Abruptly the guild doors burst open and 2 people walked inside. Yo! Turning around, Natsu saw a more muscular Jet and Droy walk through the doors. Oh, you two, looks like your training went well, Natsu said, getting up to fist bump the two. More than well, master, might be able to make S-class, Jet said, cocky like. Yeah, right. With your strength you might go down a rank, Droy said mockingly. The two started to fight. The guild doors open again to welcome Max, Nab, Warren and Ritas. Hey guys, they all said, only to see Jet and Droy brawling in the middle of the guild. Hey, what's going on? Max said, only to be hit in the face with a chair. Soon after you could see the brawl somehow sucked in the rest of the members besides Natsu and Happy. After them Macau and Romeo walked in. Natsuni, Romeo ran up to him excitedly. Wow, Romeo, I can feel you're stronger than before, Natsu said, patting the purple-haired boy's head. Yeah, I took my training very seriously, the boy said, rubbing under his nose. Master, let's hope you actually matured over this past year, Macau said jokingly. Natsu's eyebrow twitched a bit. I don't know about maturity, but I am stronger. How about I test it out on you? Natsu said. Flames appeared on his fist. Macau put his hands up in surrender, laughing nervously. No. It was a joke. A joke. Natsu shook his head but noticed someone was missing. Where's Wakaba? He asked. Macau made a face of envy. When we got back, his wife changed, he said, clenching his fist. Changed how? Natsu asked, confused. She was beautiful, Romeo said. His father abruptly dropped to his knees, banging his fist on the ground. So beautiful, he cried out. You're such a pervert, Happy said, laughing at the old man. The guild doors opened again and in walked Biska, Laki and Kinana. Natsu was hugged before he could realize, a smiling Kinana around him. I missed you, master, she said, sounding very happy. I missed you too, he said, rubbing her head, making her blush. The guild looks good, Biska said, looking at the brawl that was happening in the guild. Laki looked at Natsu and his new clothes. You look good, master, she commented, pushing her glasses up and blushing a bit. Thanks, Laki, you look great too, he commented offhandedly, making her smile. AAA. The guild was instantly silent at the noise. AAA. The guild turned their heads and finally noticed the baby in the guild. Master, whose baby is that? Biska asked him, confused. She's mine, of course, he answered simply. What? Kaori started to cry at the abrupt scream. Natsu rushed to her and picked her up. He started bouncing her up and down and making her laugh. There, daddy's here, he said softly. She stopped crying and started to just rest in her father's arms. Natsu turned to the guild with a glare in his eyes, making them run cold. Make her cry again and again, and I'll burn you to a crisp, he said, the image of a dragon appearing behind him. Sorry, master, they said in a whisper, sweat pulling at their feet. A few moments later the guild was surrounding the child. She's so cute, Laki said. Does she have a mother? Biska asked, her voice laced with a bit of jealousy. No, she's dead. The guild all looked at Natsu with pity. "Oh, I'm sorry, Master," Kinana said. "It's fine, I never met her anyway," he said. "What do you mean you never met her?" Jet asked. Droy had a look of realization. "Master, you didn't kidnap her, did you?" he asked in shock. Natsu punched him over the head, irritated. "No, you idiot, she was given to me by her guardian. Her parents died in a wyvern attack, so she's not actually mine," he said somberly for a few reasons. "Why couldn't her guardian take care of her? Why give her to you?" Macau asked. Natsu sighed, and thought about said guardian. "She died too, just a few weeks ago. Her last request is that I take care of her, so I am." Biska could see this was a hard subject for Natsu, so she decides to change it. "Does she have a name?" she asked, playing with the girl in a red onesie with the fairy tale symbol on the back. "It's Kaori. Kaori Dragneel. Well, nice to meet you, Kaori. I'm your Aunt Biska." A while later, everyone was drinking and eating, trading stories about what they did during training. Wakaba eventually walked in looking drained but incredibly happy. "I promise you, we came across 30 wyverns in the desert." Max and Nab were currently arguing with Jet and Droy about who had the hardest time during training. "Yeah, right. And we came across the black mage," Jet said, waving his hand at the crazy talk. "We did," Happy said offhandedly. The guild froze and looked at the cat shocked. "What did you say?" they asked. "Yeah, we saw him, he was a pretty nice guy, but Natsu said he reeked of death." The guild looked like they were about to pass out. "Everyone, I have an announcement." The guild turned their attention to Natsu, choosing to forget what Happy just told them. "While training, I found one of the 3 great spells of Fairy Tale. It's called Fairy Sphere, and it may be what happened to our family." Everyone started to shoot in shock. "What are you talking about?" Jet said. "Fairy Sphere is an absolute defense spell that uses the bonds of the guild as magic power. It puts the members in a sort of sleep outside of time," he explained, shocking the members, but also giving them hope. "So Levy's still alive then?" Jet and Droy celebrated. Everyone started to cheer and celebrate. "Shut up!" Natsu quieted the guild down. "Stop all the celebrating. We don't know if what I'm saying is true, and even if it is, we don't know when they'll wake up," he said, bringing their spirits down. "We have to keep going on like they won't be coming back. But never lose that hope that they will come back, because remember, that's what Fairy Tale is. We never give up." Natsu gave one of his now signature speeches, reinvigorating the guild once again. "Yeah, never give up." 2 small boys walked into the guild, on one who looked about Romeo's age, and the other looking to be 13 or 12. "Mr. Natsu, I'm here to complete my promise." The smaller boy ran up to the pink-haired man. Natsu smiled and patted the boy's head. "Good, I knew you would." He noticed the older boy standing behind him. He was looking around the guild suspiciously. "Who's this?" he asked both of them. The silver-haired boy smiled as he introduced him. "This is my big brother Nico." Natsu and the black-haired boy stared each other down. "Nice to meet you, kid. You here to join Fairy Tale?" Natsu said with a smile. The black-haired boy yawned. "You got a place to sleep around here?" he asked. Natsu looked at the boy confused. Yeah," he said. Then, "Yeah." The guild erupted into cheers, even the baby seemed happy. Nico looked kinda embarrassed and shocked, while Luke sucked up the cheers. The guild doors flew open, and something shot in the guild, landing on a few tables. Abruptly, a white-haired boy shot up, a smile on his face. "I'm here to join Fairy Tale," he shouted. The guild looked at him strangely, but a man and a cat recognized him. "Fubuki," they said, happy to see the snowboarder. The boy got up and dusted himself off, his smile still present. The people could see he looked 15. "I'm here to keep my promise," he said, looking at Natsu. Natsu didn't have time to say anything because the doors opened for the last time today. In walked in Miliana and Kagura. "We're here to join Fairy Tale, Natsu nya," Miliana said, pouncing on him. Natsu held her in his arms as he smiled at Kagura, who wasn't looking at him. "So you thought about what I said," he said, happy. "I'm still going to follow my revenge," she said pridefully. "That's fine, just do it here." Natsu, with Miliana in his arms, walked to the stage. "Let's party for our new members." Yeah! The party was in full swing. Drinks were going around and stories were being told. Wakaba bragged to Macau about his wife, which resulted in the two fighting. Romeo and Luke became fast friends, but also rivals, especially for Natsu's praise. Fubuki tried to be friends with Nico, but the black-haired boy just went to sleep on one of the tables. Jet, Droy, Max and Nab got into another fight for who knows what reason. Biska was in the middle of a drinking contest with Lucky and Miliana. What, Huck, are your feelings? Hyuk for master. A drunk lackey asked Miliana. The cat girl cocked her head, almost falling off her chair in her drunkenness. Natsu nya? I like him especially when he holds me. It's so warm, she said giggling. Biska piped up. I know right, it's amazing, she said sighing. Lucky growled at them. Tth I won't lose, Hyuk, she said, drinking her glass in one gulp. Over at the bar were Kanana, Kagura, Happy and of course, Natsu. He was currently playing with Kaori under the watchful eye of Kagura. You're just so cute, aren't you? He said in a baby voice, making the child giggle. Natsu could see Kagura watching them and decided to do something. Do you want to hold her? He asked the purple-haired. She looked shocked. Can I? She asked, blushing embarrassed. Natsu just held the baby out to her. Kagura hesitated to grab her, but the baby laughed and stuck out her arms. As Kagura was holding the child, Natsu noticed she was smiling for the first time since he met her. You should smile more. It's nice, he said, smiling at her. The girl blushed and turned her head away. The party eventually calmed down. People fell asleep or were knocked out by the brawls that broke out. Natsu carried the kids to the infirmary and laid them in the beds. Hey. Turning around, Natsu saw Nico up and staring at him, his red eyes glowing with intensity. Don't let him down. If you do, I'll kill you. It's a promise. Natsu, in response to the threat, just smiled at him. Of course not. The two of you are in fairy tale now, which makes you family, he told him with all seriousness. Yeah, I heard the word family before, didn't change the end results. Nico replied with distaste. I guess I'll just have to prove you wrong then. Natsu replied with confidence before walking out the room. The black-haired boy just sucked his teeth before laying back down. Natsu walked downstairs and grabbed a passed-out Lucky while Kagura grabbed Miliana. Kanana, could you take Biska home? The purple-haired girl nodded her head. Yes, master. Natsu walked the girls to Fairy Hills. He dropped Lucky off in her torture chamber of a room. He just told Miliana and Kagura to take any room that wasn't occupied before going home himself. The next day, Natsu woke up with a weight on his chest. Looking down, he saw light purple hair. Lucky? He shook her awake. She yawned and wiped her eyes before locking eyes with Natsu. Master? She asked, confused before freezing. She shrieked and jumped out of the bed. What are you doing in my room? She screamed, pointing at him accusingly. This is my house, he said. She looked around, seeing he was right. And, Lucky. What, you're naked? He said, emotionless, neither aroused nor nervous. She looked down to see he was right. Looking at the floor, she saw her clothes neatly folded at the foot of the bed. Thud. She passed out soon after with her nose dripping blood. Later you could see Lucky cooking breakfast as Natsu fed Kaori, while Happy munched on fish, giving his new sister a stink eye. I see you just don't like me, huh? Why don't you throw food on Natsu? Happy said, annoyed. His sister just laughed and threw some food on him. Lucky served the food, getting a thank you from Natsu. Your food's pretty good, Lucky, he said after he devoured the plate. She still hasn't uttered the word since the morning. Okay, let's go. I have an announcement to make at the guild. Later in the guild you could see Natsu standing on the stage. Okay, since everyone has been training for the past year, and we have new members, I've decided to hold the S-Class trials. Excited whispers started to be heard throughout the guild. The trials will be held in 3 months, and everyone besides Luke and Romeo is qualified to participate. The two boys shouted in displeasure. But master, why not? They said. Natsu sighed, but he wasn't going to sugarcoat it for the two of them. You two are too young, and even if you were old enough, you're not strong enough. If you don't like it, get stronger, Natsu told them. The boys put their heads down disappointed before looking at each other with determination. Now remember, how well you do missions will affect your chances of making it to S-Class. Now go out there and show me what you got. Yes, master. Chapter 7. The Trials. 3 months passed quickly, and the trials were coming up in just a day's time, and the people were itching to show their training even if they didn't make S-Class. A side effect of the guild taking all those missions in preparation was great for showing everyone that Fairy Tail wasn't going anywhere, and Natsu loved it. From the balcony of the second floor, Natsu observed his guild members. He always found them to be amazing, but the last 3 months really showed him something. In exchange for a copious amount of fish, he had Happy spy on them, and they all exceeded his expectations. Firstly, he looked at Jet and Droy. The two of them improved a lot, and their teamwork was incredible. Even if they didn't have the power alone to be S-Class, Natsu felt he could trust them together to complete an S-Class mission. Turning his attention to Bisca, Laki, and Kinana, he could say they were the most improved. The three of them completed the most missions in the last 3 months. He knew from the times he had Happy oversee their missions that Kinana didn't have what it took to be S-Class, but Laki and Bisca had a real chance. But what surprised him the most were the new members. Kagura showed she had the mental space to be S-Class. He just had to see her strength at the trials. Miliana showed she had real drive to be stronger. He could see her making it next year or after. And lastly, the boys. As ironic as it sounded coming from him, he didn't think Fubuki was mature enough yet to be S-Class, and the same went for Nico. But to say the least, the two were very strong. Okay guys, as you know, the trials are tomorrow. Cheers rang out from the guild members. Natsu could even see Kagura with an excited smile. I want you all to remember that this is more than just the trials. It's a chance for everyone to show the results of their training. Yeah. The night before the trials in the Dragneel home, Happy was sleeping dreaming about Fish and Charla. While in Natsu's room he was tossing and turning in his sleep, his face looking troubled. He woke up in a sweat, his head was aching, and he could hear a voice though it sounded muffled and broken. Hsid die, Hsend. He could almost make out an image, but the headache subsided, and with it the strange voice he was hearing. Natsu tried to collect himself, but he couldn't stop the shaking in his hands, and he had a strange feeling of fear in his heart. AAA. Looking over at the crib he had in his room, Natsu could see his baby calling for him. He walked over and he had to cover his nose, his eyes watering. Damn, you made a mess, huh? After Natsu changed her, he decided to get some fresh air. With Kaori in his arms, he went and sat by the lake he had near his house. Looking at his daughter in his lap, Natsu had a content but worried smile on his face. What's happening to me? Do you know, sweetheart? Kaori just looked at him and laughed. As Natsu sat there, he started to smell a familiar scent that surprised him. What are you doing out here? From the shadows of the surrounding forest, Ultir appeared with a small smile on her face. I heard Fairy Tail was back, so I came to check on you. She eyed the baby with a curious expression. Whose baby is that? She's mine, he said. Ultir's eyes widened in shock, but she prided herself on keeping her composure. Wow, I didn't know you were so scandalous, she said with amusement. She's not actually mine, I got her from someone. But besides that, aren't you on the run? Ultir sighed but otherwise wasn't really worried. I'm fine, but as a guildmaster shouldn't you report me? She said jokingly as she sat down next to him. Depends on why you broke out, Jelal, Natsu asked, but he didn't really think she broke him out for something like the council was making it out to be. Ultir knew telling Natsu the truth of her connection to Jelal might make him hate her, but she was atoning for her sins and lying would set her back on her new path. Taking a deep breath, she told him, I was the one who manipulated Jelal into doing all those horrible things. It was my fault he was in jail in the first place, so I broke him out, to try and atone for my sins, she told him sincerely. Natsu's eyes widened and his jaw clenched. He had to take a calming breath before he opened his mouth. Why would you do something like that? Do you understand what you did to Erza and everyone else in the tower? Ultir could feel the anger that was laced in Natsu's voice, but she could also hear his genuine confusion at her actions, which made her feel worse. Ultir explained to Natsu her dark past and her misguided hatred for her mother, which drove her. She told him how she wanted Zaref so she could change her miserable life to one of joy and laughter. She shed tears when she expressed her regret of not revealing herself to her mother when she had the chance. It's fine if you hate me for what I've done, as I said before, I will accept any punishment you deem fit, she said, trying to wipe her tears to look strong. Natsu looked at her with a blank expression. He sighed, and with his sleeping daughter in one hand he pulled the misled woman into his chest. You know, for such a smart woman you really are dumb, Natsu said as he rubbed her hair. Ultir couldn't properly put into words what she felt at that moment. The way Natsu's warmth held her made her feel more safe than even her mother's embrace. She cried on his chest in happiness and gratitude that he accepted her. I mean, what were you thinking with the whole Zaref plan? That was pretty crazy even for me, Natsu jokes, making her laugh. Ultir stayed in his arms for a while longer before she got up to leave. I have to go, my guild is waiting for me, she told him as she struggled to leave the warmth. You already have a guild? I guess this means Fairy Tail is off the table. I didn't just break out Jello to atone, and who knows, maybe someday. Thank you, Natsu, truly. If there's anything you need, just ask, she said, bowing her head. I don't know what you're thanking me for, I didn't do anything. Natsu asked, tilting his head in confusion. Ultir just laughed at him before she started to walk away. As she was doing so, Natsu remembered there was something she could do for him. Hey, there is something actually. The purple-haired women turned around curiously. Just name it. Have you ever heard of something called END? The next day early morning you could see Fairy Tail on the blue Pegasus flying ship to the location of the trial. Nico was sleeping as always while Romeo, Luke and unsurprisingly Fubuki were bouncing around the ship. This is so cool, I've never flown before, said Fubuki, looking down at the clouds below. Yeah, it's amazing, Master. Could we get one? Luke asked Natsu, who was currently heaving over the side. Maybe someday, Natsu said, smiling the best he could before passing out onto the lap of an unexpecting Jenny Reolite. Oh, she said in surprise as the salmon-haired man started to snuggle on her lap. So comfortable, Natsu mumbled as he drifted to sleep. Jenny didn't know what to do, but she remembered hearing from Mira that dragon slayers suffer from motion sickness. The girl wasn't cruel enough to shake him off, and she thought he looked quite cute in her lap. Watching the scene were a jealous-looking Biska, Laki and Kanana. Ooh, you three look jealous. Happy teased in his human form, which to say the least shocked the guild. Abruptly the blue-haired boy was tied down by wood, and a gun was pointed at his head. Who's jealous? Biska and Laki asked while Kanana just looked scared for him. Happy transformed into his cat form and flew to Natsu crying. The cat hid behind Jenny and Natsu as he eyed the demons. You're jealous, he said, sticking his tongue out at them. The two girls were ready to pounce on him, but a look at the sleeping Natsu made them stop. Laki looked at Happy and ran her hand across her neck in a cutting motion and pointed at Happy. Happy passed out in fear on top of his father. Time passed and the guild landed on what looked like a very large deserted island. Getting off the boat, they were surprised to see Lamia scale members there. What are you guys doing here? Jet said, eyeing Jura, Lion and Sherry in shock. Natsu Dono asked for our assistance. Jura answered. Why would he need to ask a wizard saint for help with our trials? Biska questioned. Because this trial will be dangerous and we don't have enough power at the guild, Natsu said, as he walked to the front of his guild. To cut to the point, on this island are many dangerous beasts. They all can give the average S-class a run for their money, Natsu explained to the guild, a few of the members looking frightened. Now your mission is to hunt one of those beasts and bring them back here, dead or alive. Remember, just because you do doesn't mean you will be S-class. Remember what I said 3 months ago, the way you handled those missions will affect your chances. He explained, as the guild got excited. As with previous trials, you can pair up or you can go solo. Pair up now. The pairings were Jet and Droy, Max and Nab, Redis and Warren, and Miliana and Kinana. The solo Goras were Nico, Biska, Laki, Kagura, and Fubuki. Wakaba and Macau opted out because they didn't really care about it. I know I always say this is for our fallen family, but today I want you to compete in this trial for yourselves and your goals. Now go out there and show me what you're fighting for. The guild rushed into the forest, all of them with an aura of determination around them. Natsu smiled as he watched them run into the forest. He was a little sad that he didn't get to go in with them. He almost felt a bit disconnected to them in that sense. You've really fallen into your new role, Natsu Dono, Jura said, as his respect for the Dragon Slayer dripped from his voice. To me he's just doing what he's always done, Lion said, shaking his head with a smile. Natsu paid their comments no mind as he turned to them. Thank you guys for all your help with this, for letting us use your ship and your strength, Natsu said sincerely. No problem, Natsu-san is a true man, Ichiya said, posing with his team behind him. Yeah, Gray was a brother, so this is the least I could do, Lion explained. Oh, Lion-sama is so honorable. Sherry swooned over him. Lion blushed a bit as he walked into the forest, the pink-haired girl behind him. What Lion Dono said, Fairy Tail are good friends of our Lamia scale, we're all here to help, Jura said, walking into the forest. The Blue Pegasus members started to walk in after. Oh, and thanks Jenny, you were a real lifesaver, Natsu told the model. She blushes as she nods her head at him. Natsu sighs as he sits down. Abruptly he started to roll on the ground seemingly in pain. Macau and Wakaba reached out worried for him. Wow, Natsu, are you okay? Aha, I miss Kaori. Back in Magnolia, poor Liusika was taking care of the Dragon Slayer's charge. That brat, making me take care of his child. She was annoyed thinking about how Natsu just showed up to her home with a smile and a baby in hand. She eyes the baby in her crib. The child was sucking on a pacifier as she smiles and giggles at the old doctor. She couldn't hold her urges anymore and picked up the baby. "You're just so cute, aren't you?" she said in a sing-song voice. Kaori giggles and touches her face. "Don't tell anyone about this," poorly Yusuke said seriously. The baby just laughed at her. Back in the forest you could see Nico walking aimlessly while Lion and Sherry followed. He noticed them a while ago but he just ignored the two. As he kept walking he heard growling and what sounded like bones being crunched. Running forward he came across his target. In front of him was a bird-like creature with scales, its sharp teeth eating something he couldn't even identify at this point. On his fist, a red magic circle appeared, his pale hand turned crimson red. He charged the bird and landed a punch on its jaw. The creature screamed as one of its teeth flew out its mouth. It rolled on the ground under the force of the blow. As it gathered itself, its eyes landed on its assailant. A smiling Nico was there using his finger telling the creature to come on. It roared in anger as it charged him. Nico looked unfazed. He started to gather magic in over his hands in response, smiling all the while. "Bloody lance," he said as a crimson lance made of blood shot from his hands at a surprising speed. The creature in its rage didn't have time to dodge and was struck in the chest. It screamed in pain and fell over. Nico, looking to end it, summoned another lance. He grabbed it and charged. The bird reptile, noticing the danger, used its wings and took to the sky. It flapped its wings, creating a surprising amount of wind, pushing the black-haired boy back. Magic started to gather around the creature as fireballs were sent towards Nico. He dodged them easily and tried to send his next attack. He couldn't get it off because looking in the sky he lost sight of the creature. Expanding his senses he looked around only to feel shaking at his feet. He didn't have time to dodge as the creature burst through the ground, its jaw opened to eat him. Nico, thinking quickly, covered both his hands in hardened blood to hold the mouth open. "This is tougher than I thought," he said as he struggled to hold the mouth open. He started to sweat as he saw fire started to gather in the beast's throat. "Oh, carp." Nico, still in the beast mouth, was covered in flame and sent to the ground, making a crater. "Lion, should we help?" a worried Sherry asked. "No, he's fine," Lion replied, not a hint of worry in his voice. "Bloody lance, barrage." From the crater on the ground, a dozen crimson lances were sent out at the beast. In a display of speed it dodged them all. Nico jumped up and you could see what looked like blood forming a sort of cocoon around. "If I didn't use this, that could have hurt," he said, dusting himself off. He looked at the bird who was snarling at him in anger. "Well, let's finish this." Blood rain. The lances it dodged exploded and started to shoot down almost 100 blood spikes. The bird couldn't dodge and was punctured, its wings getting a dozen holes as it crashed back to the ground. Nico walked up to the wounded creature struggling to move and put his foot down on its head. "Well, it seems like it's my win," he said menacingly, his red eyes glowing. Bloody slicer. A sharp wave of blood was shot from his hands and cut off its head in the ground beneath. Sighing, he called out to his spectators, "Could you guys help me carry this back?" Fubuki could be seen fighting a very large turtle with a snake for a tail. He dodged the snake bite and blocked a water blast with the body of his snowboard. Flipping over from the force of it, he laughed in excitement. "You're pretty strong. Master said we could bring back creatures dead or alive. How about we stop fighting and just be cool?" he said as he was riding around on snow he made at his feet. The turtle growled and snapped, sending more water at him. Fubuki, using his snowboard combined with his snow magic, rode away and dodged the blasts. In the trees, Ren was watching him and he noticed his feet. On his feet you could see snow-made snow boots, which connected him to his board. Back in the fight, Fubuki sped up to the beast and called out an attack. Hard snow. A snow fist was produced out of his magic circle, and was launched at the turtle. It used its shell to block it, and the blue-haired boy was surprised at how hard it was. That move was able to easily destroy stone and dent mountains. In his surprise, he was almost bitten by the snake tail. Snow Angel, protect. Behind him a large female angel appeared, and wrapped her body around him. The snake bit into the body of the angel, completely missing Fubuki. In the arms of the angel, Fubuki said something. Wrath. The outside of the angel's body launches spikes out and impaled the snake, killing it. The turtle backed away in pain, and stared at the snow angel in caution. The snow angel dispersed and started to form a ramp. Fubuki, with an excited smile on his face, rode up the ramp, jumping straight into the air. On the bottom of his board a small snowball appeared, and in front of him 4 large snowflakes came into view. Northern Impact. He launched the snowball from his board into the snowflakes. As it hit them, the snowball gained speed and size. When it went through the last one, it was so large and moving so fast you couldn't even tell it was a snowball anymore. It was just a white mass. When it hit the turtle, its shell was crushed immediately and it was killed under the weight and speed of the snow. "Well, that was fun," he said as he landed on the ground. Kinana and Miliana were struggling to fight a large horned monkey. Kinana shot her gun, her hands still aching from the force behind it. The beast dodged and the bullets kept going, destroying a few trees behind it. The monkey beat its chest before digging into the ground and throwing a giant rock at her, laughing. Kinana couldn't dodge, but she didn't have to. Cat bind. Pink ropes appeared from Miliana's hands, and they wrapped around the rock. In an impressive display of physical strength, she spins around and sends the rock back at the monkey. The laughing beast didn't have time to dodge and was hit by the rock. "Thanks, Millie," Kinana said as they had a little time to breathe. "No problem," as Natsu Naya said, "we're family." The cat girl replied, "So what's the plan, Naya?" she asked the younger girl. "I think if I can get a good shot off with my gun, I might be able to kill it," Kinana said, sounding unsure but determined. She knew she wasn't ready for S-class, but a big part of her didn't want to fail now. She wasn't just fighting for her guild today, she was fighting for herself and she wanted to win. "Okay, I'll bind it. It won't be for long, so be fast, Naya," Millie said as she sped off towards the monkey. The beast finally got up in anger and noticed Miliana right away. It tried to crush her with its hands. She dodged and ran up its arm and kicked it in the face. It didn't do much, but it definitely did a little bit of damage. Miliana jumped off its shoulder, her pink rope wrapping around it as she fell. When she got to the ground, she ran around the monkey, leaving only the head exposed. "Ultra Cat Bind," Miliana said, as she was sweating holding the bind. "Now Kinania." Kinana had a determined look on her face as she carefully aimed her gun, putting a little magic in the shot she fired. A loud bang rang out through the forest as the recoil from the gun made Kinana drop it in pain. The monkey, sensing the danger, raised a rock to block, but it was blown away and the beast was struck in the head. The beast fell over the ropes, binding it, disappearing as it dropped. Kinana was tackled by Miliana. "You did it, Kinania," she said, praising the purple-haired girl, making her blush. "We did it. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you, Millie," she said truthfully. Miliana was the real MVP. Abruptly, their moment was interrupted by the monkey standing back up, its jaw gone. It started to change the girls. Kinana tried to grab her gun, but her wrist wouldn't let her hold it. Miliana was too tired to bind him, and she wasn't strong enough to just punch it away. The girls gripped each other in fear. Earth Spike. From the ground, the monkey was pierced in the stomach by Jura. "You girls did good," he said with sincerity. The girls just hung their heads in disappointment. The two were escorted back to camp by Jura. To see Nico, Fubuki, and Kagura already back, 3 beasts in tow, Miliana ran into Natsu's arms crying crocodile tears. "I'm sorry, Natsunya, I failed," she whined as Natsu rubbed her head in comfort. "Don't worry, Millie. You did good." From the corner of his eye, he could see Kinana shedding silent tears. "Same goes for you, Kinana," Natsu asked her. "Yes, master." Biska was currently dodging swipes from a tiger's fur that moved like tentacles as she unloaded her machine guns into its side. "Hey now, give me a challenge." She ran forward, weaving the tentacle-like fur, and slid under the tiger, unloading shots on its stomach. Looking at the tiger, it was riddled with holes and blood was leaking from every side of its body. "Well, I think it's time to put you down," she said, as she threw her machine guns in the air and they disappeared. A magic circle appeared to her side, putting her hand inside, and she pulled out her pistol. She aimed and fired 6 shots, explosive bullets. Her aim struck true as the 6 bullets pierced the tiger's fur, making it fall over. It tried to stand up, but Biska wouldn't let it. "Boom," she said quietly, and the tiger exploded from the inside. When all was said and done, the only thing Biska could take back was the head. Hope Natsu accepts this. The trial eventually ended with the only ones bringing back a beast were Jet and Droy, 1 for each of them. Laki and Biska, in Biska's case only a head. And lastly, the new members Kagura, Nico, and Fubuki. Okay, now that the trial is over, I want to say I'm proud of every one of you. You all showed true heart and growth. I will be announcing the new S-class members when we get back to our guild, but for now, let's party. As the party went on, you could see Happy Wakaba and Macau exchange money with each other. It seemed they bet on the trials, and Wakaba came out on top. "Man, everything's coming up, Wakaba," he said as he smoked his cigar. Happy and Macau were on their knees swearing revenge on him. Biska and Lucky were currently scolding Kinana. You shouldn't have charged the gun. You know you aren't ready for that yet, Biska said, as she wrapped her friend's sprained wrist. Yeah, what were you thinking? Lucky added on. Kinana had her head down as she listened to two. I wanted to win. You two have grown so much and I feel left behind. And Master always says we need to be stronger so Fairy Tail can survive, she said, unshed tears in her eyes. I'm sure the Master wouldn't want you to be stronger while hurting yourself, Lucky said. Natsu appeared with a stuffed face. Swallowing all his food, he bent down to be eye level with the girl. Listen, I know I said we all need to be stronger so Fairy Tail can survive, and that's true. But strength isn't the only thing Fairy Tail is about. Look around. Looking at what Natsu was pointing at, Kinana saw everyone laughing and having fun. Even the more introverted members like Kagura and Nico looked comfortable with all the drinking and stupid arguments going on. This is what I really wanted to get back to. The fun-loving guild that had brawls in the middle of the day for no reason. Well, there was a reason for me. The ice prick really got on my nerves sometimes, Natsu said, making Kinana laugh. But remember, this is what Fairy Tail is. Yeah, we're strong, but what's most important is the smiles we see every day, Natsu explained as he patted her head as the purple-haired girl cried. I'm sorry, Master. She apologized. Natsu tilted his head confused. What are you saying sorry for? He asked her. I don't know, she answered. Don't apologize if you don't know the reason, just make you look dumb. Besides, you don't have to apologize, your strength and determination was acknowledged by a wizard saint. Be proud. Kinana knew, looking up at the pink-haired man, that no amount of praise or acknowledgement from anybody would ever mean as much to her as the words that came from him. Hey, save some of that turtle for me, Natsu said as he ran into the buffet. I think I just fell in love, Lucky whispered. What? Biska asked, looking at the blushing girl in glasses. Me too, Kinana said, swooning. What? As the party was winding down, you could see Nico still devouring food to the shock of all. Dude, why do you eat so much? I mean, you eat more than Natsu, said Jet, looking. Yeah, even at the guild, Max added on. Oh, that's because we're vampires, Like said casually as he was sparring with Romeo. It was like everything in the area stopped when he said that. The people couldn't even hear the ocean in the distance or the animals in the forest. The first time break out of the stopped time was Nico. Luke, you idiot! He screamed at his little brother, making him jump. Why would you say that? Luke looked confused. What, it's true, and they were asking. So, you guys are vampires? Natsu said curiously. That's so cool, Nico, why didn't you tell me? Fubuki said, as he appeared in front of his face. By the way, what's a vampire? He asked after. A vampire is a type of demon that lives off blood, and as far as we know they are immortal. They have a plethora of strengths, and not that many weaknesses, but they are very scarce nowadays. Most think they're extinct, Jura explained wisely. So you drink blood? Fubuki asked him. No, Nico screamed. So what do you drink? The snow mage asked him. I drink whatever humans drink. Nico sighed as he looked around at all the curious faces. Me and Luke are half vampires. We don't need to live off blood like the others. But we have to eat a lot to make up for it, he explained. I'll understand if you don't want us in the guild. Whoa. Why wouldn't we want you in the guild, like I said when you first joined your family, right guys? Yeah. Nico looked shocked as the people around him accepted him and his brother so easily. He was shocked to see that in just 3 months, they showed him something he and his brother haven't had in years. Aw, is Nico crying? Fubuki teased him. Nico had to wipe his stray tears before he attacked the blue-haired boy. Shut up. Nico's a crier, he said as he dodged the black-haired boy's attacks. In the trees you could see a girl with long blonde hair smiling at them. Chapter 8, What Hides in the Shadows? Natsu was currently at home watching a strange girl he found in the forest. She was beat up and looked a little starved. She looked to be the same age as Natsu, or maybe younger. She was digging into the food he gave her with gusto under the curious gaze of the Dragneel family. Once she finished, she looked up with an embarrassed blush. I'm sorry, she said, reserved. It's fine, you don't have to apologize, Natsu told her, smiling. The girl looked shocked at his apparent kindness. So what's your name? He asked her. Minerva? The black-haired girl answered. Could you tell what you were doing in the woods? The girl shifted uncomfortably at the question. I was training with my father and got lost, she said nervously, showing a bit of emotion. When Natsu looked into her eyes when she said father, he could see a burning hatred. She abruptly got up to leave. I have to go. My father will be looking for me, she said, going to the door. You sure? You could stay, you know, Natsu told her, and Minerva could tell he wasn't just saying for the night. She struggled not to turn around. This stranger radiated a safety never felt before to her. But she ultimately grabbed the doorknob, not wanting her father to harm the man. No, it's fine, she said as she walked into the night. Well, you're always welcome back, Natsu told her. As Minerva ran into night, she shed silent tears as she got further and further away from the stranger's warmth, and ran back into the familiar cold hands of her father. Natsu woke up with a familiar weight on his chest. Sighing, he rubbed the sleep out his eyes and woke his nightly intruder. Wake up. A naked Miliana stretched under the covers and snuggled deeper into his chest, purring. 5 more minutes, Natsunya, she said, going back to sleep. Natsu bobbed her on the head in frustration. Wake up. Miliana jumped up, holding her head in pain. OW, not cool, Natsunya, she said, her crocodile tears flowing. Hey, well, you shouldn't be here, Natsu shot back at her. But I like sleeping with Natsunya. It's so warm, she said, hugging him around the waist. Abrupt knocks could be heard on Natsu's front door. Put some clothes on, Natsu said as he threw on some pants so he didn't answer the door in his underwear. Opening, he wasn't surprised to see his uninvited guest's roommate standing there. Hi Kagura, he said, smiling. Kagura tried not to blush, staring at Natsu's uncovered frame. She noticed she's been having weird thoughts about him lately. But it didn't mean anything, right? Master, she said as she walked into his home uninvited like always. This has been Natsu's morning routine for the past few months. Miliana breaks in at night, and Kagura shows up in the morning. Natsu walked back into his house to see Kaori making her way to Kagura. Come here, baby, Kagura cooed to her in a voice Natsu knew she would kill anybody else for hearing. Natsu made breakfast, of course making some for his guest, and sat down at the table. A few moments later, Miliana in her clothes came and sat down in his lap, shifting a bit to get comfortable. She picked up some of the eggs and fed it to him like usual before taking a bite herself. Kagura watched the scene with a strange rage she couldn't place just yet. UK Auntie Kabura, Kaori asked the purple-haired woman. Yes, I'm fine, honey, she told her with a sweet smile. If you asked Natsu if there was anything wrong with what was happening, he would tell you no, and if you asked him if he was dating Miliana, he would also say no. He didn't have time to find mates right now with his new position as guildmaster and his growing child. That caused him to sink to a new level of obliviousness. How long that would last, nobody knew. As he sat in his seat, a cat girl in his lap feeding him, Natsu couldn't believe it's been 3 years already. 3 years since he became guildmaster. 3 years since he lost his family. A full 2 years passed since those first trials. Things changed for the guild with the new S-class mages becoming the new faces of the guild. Those people were Biska, Laki, Kagura, Jet, Droy, Nico, Fubuki, and finally Happy. Nico and Fubuki didn't make it the first year, but they just made it this year, much to their joy, though Nico didn't show it. The others didn't necessarily care for being S-class, so Natsu stopped holding them. The only people he was waiting on were Kanana and Miliana. Good morning, master, Biska waved at him from the bar as he walked in. Biska became a model, and unlike Mira, she got along quite well with Jenny. Stop interrupting my nap, snowflake, Nico screamed. But I'm bored, Fubuki replied. Nico and Fubuki became known as the two new powerhouses, as they took on hard missions all the time, solo and sometimes together, becoming a team called Fairy Tale's Crimson Snow. They were also the cause of most of the damage to the guild nowadays, with Jet and Droy a close second. Speaking of Jet and Droy, the two got fan clubs. The attention quickly went to their heads, only for their egos to be shot down by the attention Natsu got when he walked down the street. Kagura mellowed out. She wasn't as stuck up and didn't stick to herself as much anymore, and you could see her hanging out with people other than Miliana more often. He didn't know where she was on her revenge right now, but her and Miliana haven't brought it up yet and he hasn't asked. Morning, Master Neeson. He was greeted by Romeo and Luke, who both were growing by the day. What's up, guys? Are you going? He saw the two of them with bags on their shoulders. Happy's taking us on a mission, they told him. Happy, even though he was S-class, didn't take many missions. He usually just went in mission with them. Okay, have fun. As Natsu walked into his office, his daughter in tow, he was greeted by his beautiful advisor. Hello, master. I've already pilled your paperwork, Laki said. She then looked towards the little girl. Hello, Kaori. she said as she picked her up. Auntie Lucky, the girl exclaimed happy. Natsu struggled to find his footing in his new position. It was hard for him to stay in one place for so long, but he was doing better these days with the help of Lucky. After becoming Natsu's advisor, she usually accompanied him to his meetings, and most of the time kept him on track while doing his paperwork. They also got 2 new members, which were Gagil's old lackeys, Sue and Bose. They both joined the bar staff, which definitely helped Kinana and Miliana. And the most important change, at least for Natsu, was that Kaori was 3 now. When she took her first steps and had her first words, he almost cried. He actually did cry when she called him Papa for the first time. Another thing was that she had pink hair, which made her really look like Natsu's daughter. But the world didn't stop moving outside either. The king introduced something called the Grand Magic Games last year to decide what guild would be number 1 in Fiore. Natsu didn't really see the point in it. Didn't Fiore decide that already? But he was never one to turn down a challenge, and the guild wanted to compete. They took first place, though it was a tough battle. They kept their number 1 spot secure. Ultir told him something fishy was going on during the games. She shocked him when she said they felt the presence of Zeraf around the stadium. He decided to not participate going forward. He told the guild why, and they accepted his reasons. They still planned to go watch them. Ultir, Jelal and Murdy's guild, Crime Sorcière, grew in fame over the last 2 years also, taking down dark guilds left and right. They were still being hunted though, so the council obviously didn't care. Natsu slumped back in his chair as he signed that last paper. Now I know what the old man felt. A few knocks were heard at his door. Come in. Kinana walked in looking nervous. Kinana certainly had a growth spurt in all departments. This attracted attention to her, which she always politely turned away. What's up, Kinana? I wanted to talk to you alone, she said nervously. Natsu nodded Lucky out as he looked back to Kinana. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Kinana breathed out her nerves. Well, you know I have amnesia, she said, twiddling with her thumbs. Yeah, Natsu said. Well, lately I've been hearing this voice and seeing this purple snake lately in my dreams. And they keep calling my name, but it's not my name, she explained, worried. Well, what is it calling you? Natsu asked with a raised brow. Kubelios. Natsu looked confused at first, but the name did sound familiar to him. Thinking a bit more, he remembered the poison dragon slayer and his partner. You mean the snake Cobra was riding? He questioned. Yeah, I think I'm the snake, she said with her head down. And? Natsu questioned. Kinana looked up in shock. Well, if I was, it means I attacked the guild, she said, sounding stressed. This has obviously been on her mind lately. Natsu sighed and smiled at the girl. There's no ifs, Kinana, you were that snake. Kinana almost fell over. What? Natsu walked around his desk, and sat on the front, and looked her in the eye. Yeah, Mikao told me the old man turned you back to human after the battle. But whether you are the snake or not doesn't change anything, you're still Kinana, mage of fairy tale, he told her sincerely. Were you worried or something? Natsu asked her. I just didn't want anybody to look at me differently, she said, sounding embarrassed. Like that would ever happen. You're too important to us, Natsu told her, laughing. Kinana abruptly kissed Natsu on the cheek, smiling. What was that for? He asked. For being you, master, she said, smiling. Natsu just smiled at her, confused, but happy she was happy. He stopped smiling and noticed the distance between them. Kinana blushed as she felt his heat hold her body. She started to lean in slowly, with Natsu doing the same. Master. Abruptly his door burst open, separating to 2. The council is here, Lucky told him. Natsu sighed in frustration for multiple reasons and walked out his office. Lucky looked at the tomato-faced girl with questioning eyes. What's wrong with you? She asked. Nothing. What's wrong with you? As Natsu walked downstairs, he saw a bunch of nameless councilmen in the guild. What's going on? He said. Natsu Dragneel, your presence is requested by the Magic Council, a faceless soldier told him. What for? Natsu asked rudely. That will be disclosed when we get there. Natsu sighed again and scratched his head in frustration. Fine, whatever, he said. Papa, his daughter said, sounding worried. Natsu bent down and rubbed her head. I'll be back real quick, don't worry, he told her. As Natsu was standing in front of the council, you could see the irritation all over his face. Is anybody gonna tell me what I'm here for? Natsu was way better at controlling his anger, but the council always brought it out of him. The council looked at him with anger. Watch your tongue, Dragneel, one of them said. Natsu Dragneel, We have a tip saying that you're housing demons in your guild. Grand Doma, the leader of the council, said. Is this true? Natsu raised an eyebrow. He didn't understand how they would have found out that information, but what really pissed him off was what reason did they have for bringing him here? Is that it? And if I did, is there a rule that I can't? He questioned. So it's true then, another member said accusingly. We just want to know that there aren't any problems. You know our new incentive on dark guilds now, we have to check all stones. Gran said, staring intently in Natsu's eyes. Natsu looked back just as intently, and his aura started to heat the room. They haven't done anything wrong, they follow the guild rules, and yours, he said agitated. As long as that's true, we'll be checking up on them from now on, you're free to leave. As Natsu walked away grumbling, he didn't notice the smirk on one of the council members' faces. As Natsu got back to the guild, his sour mood was changed to one of joy as his daughter jumped in his arms. Papa, Natsu smiled, as he spun her around. I told you I would be back quick, he said. Natsu doesn't really leave her behind when he goes to meetings, so this was new for her. What did the council want? Biska asked. Natsu sighed as he sat down in the bar with Kaori. They found out about Nico and Luke. Worried whispers started to ring around. And what did they say? Nico asked worriedly. Don't worry, they can't do anything to you guys, and even then you're fairy tale and that's not gonna change, Natsu said confidently. But what's strange to me is how did they know about you guys in the first place? Natsu said, a serious air around him. Yeah, either we have a traitor, Biska said, making the people look around. Or someone's out to get us, Lucky said, her glasses hiding her eyes. Exactly, Lucky. I don't think we have a traitor, although some of you do have blabbermouths, Natsu said laughing. Like you're one to talk. They yelled back at him. From now on I want you guys to keep your eyes peeled on missions, okay? Natsu told them. Yes, master. Later that day as Natsu was going home, he was flagged down by Biska. He went home with her of course, bringing Kaori with him. Happy sighed as he watched them. This was another one of Natsu's routines nowadays. When the three got to her house, Kaori ran in like she always did, and grabbed the toys she had there. Biska started to work on dinner, as Natsu played with his daughter. Oh no! Natsu fake screamed as Kaori jumped on him, fake sword in hand. Die evil dragon papa, she said as she stabbed him. Natsu made a whole death scene, and puffed out a weak flame from his mouth. Ugh! Tell my daughter I love her, he said before he closed his eyes with his tongue hanging from his mouth. This scene was watched by a smiling Biska. When they came over she always thought of them as a real family, and it always made her think how she wanted this to be a real thing for her. She served dinner and they laughed as they talked about their day. Natsu laid Kaori down before going to Biska's room where she was waiting. Biska didn't have to explain to Natsu why she wanted him to stay the night so many times, she just asked so he did it. As they lay there cuddling, Biska noticed Natsu looked troubled. What's on your mind? She asked him. Natsu broke from his thoughts to look at her. I was just thinking what happened today, he told her. You worried about whoever's after us? She asked him. Yeah, I guess. But more if they're after Nico and Luke and what that means, he told her, and Biska shook her head amused. That's not like you, Natsu, she told him. Yeah, I guess being guildmaster changed me, he said, chuckling a bit. Or just made you more of what you already were, she said with admiration. Natsu stared at her and smiled. Thanks, that means a lot. But you are right, no point in sitting and worrying about it. If something happens we'll deal with it, Natsu said with his usual confidence. The tone he used was the tone that made Biska fall for him those 3 long years ago. And as she laid there she thought about whether she should tell him her feelings, or keep them to herself longer. She told herself she wouldn't pass up this chance twice. Natsu, I love you, she screamed. When she didn't hear a response she looked up to see he was asleep. She sighed and smiled, she leaned in and gave him a peck on the lips. I love you, Natsu, she said quietly and cuddled into him and went to sleep herself. Natsu opened his eyes to complete darkness. No matter which way he looked he couldn't see anything. Hello? He called out, and something answered. Hey Natsu. It's been so long since you've came to see me. A shadow appeared in front him. It appeared to be male, and it strangely had the exact same height as Natsu. The only thing he could describe was its glowing red eyes. Who are you, and did you bring me here? It looked like Biska wanted to tell me something, Natsu said irritatedly. The shadow laughed him. Yeah, that green-haired gunner is a real beauty. You're an idiot for not breeding her yet. I would've, the shadow said laughing sadistically. Natsu grew angry at his words. "Shut up," Natsu said, throwing a fire punch at the shadow. It caught it with ease. Shockingly, Natsu. "Oh, is the little dragon feeling territorial? Or are you just afraid she'll be taken from you like the rest of your family?" The shadow mocked him. "Who are you?" Natsu yelled, as he let loose a roar in the shadow's face. "Come on, you don't remember me or how we met. You're still too weak and too dumb, I guess. I'll call you again when you know my name," the shadow told him, sounding truly disappointed. "What are you talking about?" Natsu's anger quickly turned to confusion as he watched the shadow walk away. "I gotta go, the lizard's waking up soon. You should keep your eyes peeled, Pinky. The shadows hide monsters. Might want to mate before it's too late." A hole in the floor opened up and swallowed Natsu. "It salmon bastard." Natsu woke up in a huff, startling Biska awake also. "Natsu, you okay?" she asked him worriedly. Natsu steadied his breathing before answering her. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just had a weird dream," he told her reassuringly. "Anything you want to tell me about?" she asked him. "Nah, it's not important. Just sleep right." Biska wanted to push him. Having nightmares wasn't like Natsu, but she decided not to. "Okay." Abruptly, Natsu kissed her. She of course kissed him back. "What was that for?" Natsu just smiled at her. "I just wanted to." As Natsu laid down, he could shake the words that Shadow said to him. Underground, you could see a man sitting on a throne. It was so dark you couldn't even make out any features other than his striking red orbs. He abruptly reached out and grabbed something. In his hand was a small human-shaped piece of paper. "What is this?" he questioned irritatedly. "I'm here to tell you something that might interest you, King." The paper projected a voice out that had a level of mockery when saying King. The man raised his brow. "So you're the fly that's been buzzing around here lately. What could you have that would interest me?" he asked with a level of arrogance. "I have it on good authority that 2 half-breeds are a part of the Fairy Tale Guild, and I know how important those are for your kind," the voice explained, amused. The man smiled, showing long fangs in his mouth. "And what do you want in return?" The paper let out a laugh. "Just make sure Fairy Tale is gone when the time comes," the paper said with a level of bitterness and hate. The king shredded the paper, his smile still present. "Kasan, how long until the device is done?" he asked him. A man appeared from the shadows, kneeling. "It should only take another 2 years at most." "Good. Then 2 years from now the town of Magnolia will be the beginning of the new age of vampires," the king said with an evil smirk. "And what of the half-breeds?" Kasan asked him. "Leave them for now. Their blood is too enticing to us, they'll be torn apart." Outside of whatever space the king was in, below him you could see hundreds of red eyes glowing in the darkness. Chapter 9, Night Assault. Another 2 years passed, and with it came more changes in the lives of the fairies. The S-class rank got 2 new additions in the forms of Kinana and Miliana, which resulted in a huge party, in which Kinana shared a passionate drunken kiss with Natsu that she didn't remember in the morning. Wakaba added a new addition to his family in the form of a son, which Romeo was happy about because he always wanted a little brother. Kaori turned 5 and she was just a ball of energy now. She kept all the people in the guild on their toes at all times with her games. Natsu lost a bet to the guys in guild and had to model in the nude, which backfired on them when he became the most eligible bachelor in Fiore soon after. Which irked a lot of women who knew him, but they would be lying to you if they said they didn't have a copy of the magazine. Natsu, on the other hand, hates the attention, as he couldn't even walk down the street nowadays without almost being assaulted. Another thing was that he became closer with the other guilds, and he often went to visit them. He chatted with Jenny and they got along great. He found it nice to hang around her. Master Bob still made him uncomfortable with certain comments, but Natsu thought he was a good guy. At Lamia he often got his ear talked off by the old lady, but to him it was still better than those boring meetings with the council. He often spared and beat Jura while he was there, saying he couldn't shame Fairy Tale as its master even in a spare. Lion got into a relationship with Sherry. Natsu guessed he finally got over Juvia, and speaking of Sherry, her little cousin Sheria joined the guild, and she had Godslayer magic. She's taken to calling him Natsu Niisama after a while. Natsu didn't mind it, of course. The girl reminded him of Wendy, and Happy agreed. Another change was that a new guild appeared claiming they were the strongest guild in Fiore. A guild called Sabretooth, the same guild they just watched win the Grand Magic Games. What an upset! The new guild Sabretooth has taken first place in this year's games. Led by their twin dragons, they swept the competition. Are they the new strongest guild as they've been saying? the announcer said, as the crowd cheered for the team in the middle of the stadium. Well, who knows? Fairy Tail hasn't participated in years. Who knows what the outcome would be if that happened? The old man announced. That is true, but for now give it up for the winners of this year's Grand Magic Games. The crowd went wild as the members of Sabretooth pulled a face at the Fairy Tail comment. After the games you could see Sting and Rouge walking down a street filled with food stalls and Sting was grumbling. Stupid announcer mentioning Fairy Tail. Of course we would have beat those cowards, he said with mass irritation. Rouge just kept quiet as his friend vented. Yeah. Who knew Natsu was such a coward? You could beat him easily now, Sting. Lecter said. Damn right I can. He agreed hastily, his irritation spiking to a new level at the mention of his hero. Beat Natsu. They turned around to see two people coming out of a food stall. You could barely beat Lion and you think you could beat Natsu? Sting and Rouge laid eyes on a black-haired teen who looked to be the same age as them, or maybe a year older. He had meat kebab in his mouth, and striking red orbs with pale skin. His hair was short just coming down to his earlobes. On his neck they could see a crimson fairy tale mark with a black outline. The other one looked older, maybe 2 years. He had a large head of icy blue hair. His skin was pale as snow and he had vivid yellow eyes. He had a large snowboard on his back which looked out of place since he was wearing black shorts and a sleeveless vest that went over his face when zipped. On his leg you could see a blue fairy tale mark with a black outline. Sting recognized these guys. You're Fairy Tail's Crimson Snow, aren't you? Feeling hurt because I told the truth? Sting said with mockery. Nico laughed as he finished his food. What truth? You couldn't beat Natsu even if he was blind and deaf with no arms? He replied, ticking Sting off more. Oh yeah? Looking to test that theory? Sting said, his magic power flaring. Was never one for tests, but I do love dishing out a good beating, Nico said, smiling with arrogance as his hands turned red while Sting's turned white. Nico, I don't think this is a good idea. Master wouldn't want us to fight here, Fubuki said, trying to calm his friend down. For as chill as Nico was, he was always ready for a fight. Nico lowered his power and sighed before smiling. You're right, Fubuki. The blue-haired boy sighed in relief. You want to take this somewhere else? He asked Sting 2 seconds after. Yeah, let's. The two walked off, leaving Fubuki stuck looking at what just happened. He just sighed as he followed after him, Rouge and the cats right behind him. A few minutes later all of them were standing in a part of the outside forest, Nico and Sting warming up. I don't think this is a good idea, Sting, Rouge told him. Forche thinks so, too, his friend agreed. Don't worry, Rouge, this won't take long, he replied with his cocky air ever present. Yeah, Sting's gonna kick that guy's ass. The two locked eyes and the tension in the area started to build. As a leaf hit the ground, the two attacked simultaneously. Bloody Lance. Holy Beam. Nico sent a much stronger version of his signature attack at Sting, and Sting countered by shooting a blinding white beam from his hands. The two attacks clashed and were even sending blood and white light throughout the forest. The two wasted no time and dashed at each other. Sting's hands glowing in a bright white, while Nico's were covered in a shining crimson. When they clashed, a wave of wind was released, shaking the trees and their spectators. Rouge had to grab the cats so they wouldn't fly away. The two entered a fierce exchange, looking very even again. Sting threw a strong forward punch which Nico slipped and grabbed his arm. Turning his body, he flipped Sting on his back, creating cracks in the ground. Nico still held his arm in place and prepared to deliver a downward punch to his face. But Sting, in a display of flexibility, dodged and with his arm still in a hold struck back with a kick that landed on his opponent's face, making him let him go. Sting jumped up and dusted himself off while Nico wiped a bit of blood from his mouth. You're a demon, aren't you? Sting questioned him. Yeah. How'd you know? Nico asked him. It's my magic. It acts differently in the face of evil. Plus you can't hide from a dragon's nose. Sting said. So what, you scared? Nico asked in mockery. Sting laughed at the words. A demon is nothing in that face of a dragon, you know? He replied. The two were back at it in an instant. You just might be a good fight, Nico said as they were locked in an exchange. Can't say the same for you. Sting replied back to him. White drive. Abruptly Sting started to exude a white aura, and before Nico could realize what was happening, he was punched in the stomach, sending him through several trees. How do you like my white drive? His assailant said as he kicked him off the ground into the air. Sting didn't let up. He appeared above him and slammed him into the ground. Sting laughed as he saw his opponent on the ground, seemingly in pain. Let's finish this. He said. He threw his last punch. But to his shock, Nico blocked it. You ain't the only one who can take it up a level. Blood drive. A reddish aura covered Nico to Sting's surprise, and that was all Nico needed to counterattack. In one motion he swept his legs and buried him in the ground with an axe kick. Sting coughed up a bit of blood as dust was kicked up from the attack. Nico summoned what looked like a club of blood, and tried to crush him but missed. Sting dodged out of the way just in time, his clothes dirty and his mouth dripping blood. Stealing my tricks, huh? He said, amused. Tisk tisk tisk. Is it really stealing if I'm doing it better? Nico said, putting the blood club on his shoulder. The two smiled as they clashed again for the third time. It looks like they're having fun? Almost makes me want to fight too, Fubuki said, as he watched the two girls back and forth. Yeah, I know what you mean, Rouge replied. White Dragon's iron fist. Sting got off his attack right on Nico's face, knocking him away. Before Nico could prepare himself, he was hit with another attack that halted his movements. White Dragon's Claw. This move uses holy power to paralyze my opponents, and since you're a demon, the mark that appeared on Nico's stomach abruptly started to burn him. It's gonna hurt, Sting explained with a vicious smile. Holy Ray. In Sting's hands he started to charge a large amount of magic. He compressed it and fired it in the form of a large beam. Nico saw the attack coming but still couldn't move. Boom! A large cloud of dust was kicked up from where the attack hit. The impact was so strong it uprooted surrounding trees. Sting powered down from White Drive, breathing heavily. Seems like it's my win, huh? Sting said. Yeah, I don't think so. The smoke screen dissipated, showing Nico being protected by a large blood hand with a shield. Blood Knight, shield, he said, smiling, as the blood dissipated. You almost had me, I gotta say, Nico said, clapping his hands. Well, you won't survive the next one, Sting said, getting in a simple stance with his palm out front, and his fist cocked back at his waist. A large white aura appeared around Sting, his magic power surging. I could say the same. Nico cut his own arm with his blood, and started to use it. 4 arms sprouted from his back, each one sporting a different weapon. The blood from his arm went in, each one seemingly powering them up. In his own hands a large sword and spear were made. The magic power each was exuded was making the ground shake. Hey, should we stop them? Fubuki asked Rogue, worried. Sting, cut it out, that's enough. Rouge screamed, but it was like his friend didn't hear him. He was completely focused on the guy in front of him. Dragon Slayer Secret Art, Holy Nova. Sting's white aura was compressed down into his clenched fist, and he sped towards Nico at great speed. Blood Toll, Asura's Wrath. Nico pointed his weapons forward, the other arms doing the same, forming one large drill shape. He pushed off the ground just as fast as Sting. Boom! When they clashed, a large blinding light was heard, and nobody could see anything. When the light died down, there was only one question on their minds. Who won? They all asked. The answer was no one. Standing in between the two was Natsu Become, and he was stopping both of their attacks. Oh shit, Nico said, sweating nervously. Oh shit is right, you brat, Natsu said, as he threw Sting away and hit Nico over the head. Why are you having a fight with another guild out here? He yelled and scolded him. Ow, he started it, master, he was talking shit about you and Fairy Tail, Nico said, rubbing his head. Even with his vampire healing, Natsu blows always hurt for a while. Natsu, you bastard, why did you interrupt my fight? Sting said, getting in his face. Shut up, Natsu said, and headbutted him. You've grown stronger, but still not enough to beat me, he told the blonde as he was running his head in pain. You know this, brat master? Nico asked at his side. Yeah, I met him 5 years ago now, but that's beside the point, he said, going back to scolding Nico. You know, it's funny seeing Natsu scold someone for being reckless, Macau said. On the side you could see a horde of spectators watching the scene. The guilds that participated in the games and of course Fairy Tail themselves. Yeah, it shows how much he's grown over the years, Bisca said with Kaori at her feet trying to escape. Ha ha ha, times have really changed, huh? Wakaba asked, laughing. That they have, old friend, that they have, Macau wistfully. I'd like to know why you stopped the fight, Dragneel. Were you scared one of your fairies may lose? The master of Sabertooth Gemma said, stepping towards him. Natsu's face grew serious as he addressed the larger man. Of course not. That was just getting too serious for a friendly fight, Natsu said. The man stepped closer, towering over Natsu. Why not them finish? Prove who's stronger once and for all. My saber-tooth or your fairies, he said seriously. The tension in the air was palpable at Giemma's words. Both the Fairy Tale Guild and Sabertooth eyed each other ready for action. A vein popped on Natsu's forehead at his words. Prove who's stronger. Fairy Tale doesn't have to prove their strength to anyone. We're number one and no contest can say different. Even though Giemma was towering above Natsu, nobody could say he looked smaller than the man. But how about next time instead of our guildmates fighting, we duke it out? You know what they say, a guild's strength is a reflection of their master's right. Natsu provoked him. Even though he was mature, Natsu was still cocky and ready for action at any time. His magic started to rise as the image of a dragon took shape behind him. Giemma started to sweat, but he never got to respond as two magic council members showed up. Dornabolt, also known as Mest, and Lahar appeared at the scene, stopping anything that could happen between the two. What's happening here? You all know fighting between guilds is forbidden, right? Lahar explained. Natsu lowered his power and smiled as he walked to his guildmates, Nico following him. No, we weren't fighting, just congratulating the winners, Natsu said, as he picked up Kaori from who was begging for it. Right guys? Of course, master. His guild replied. Good, as long as you all know, Lahar said as he and Dornabolt looked at them all. Come on guys, what do you want to eat when we get back, honey? Natsu asked Kaori as they walked away. Fish, she said excitedly. Did Happy bribe you again? Kaori ducked her head. No. Natsu gave her a look and she folded immediately. Yes, she said in defeat. Natsu looked over at Happy, but he was just whistling innocently. Natsu just shook his head at the two. Wow. So that was Fairy Tale's master, huh? A real hunk. Risley Law from Mermaid Heel said. And did you see his daughter? She was adorable. Her teammate Beth said. Would it be a betrayal to think that was cool? Sting whispered to Lecter on the ground. Nah, that was super cool, Lecter whispered back. Frosch thinks so too, Frosch said, whispering also. Minerva just stared at his retreating form and thought about that night she met him. Maybe he could have helped her, she thought in the depths of her mind. No power is the only thing that can save me, no one else and nothing else, she told herself. It didn't take long for the guild to make it back home, just a quick train ride home, which of course incapacitated Natsu. This time he fell in the lap of one Kagura, who blushed heavily at the act, but she accepted it with a smile she didn't realize she was giving. They were all back in the guild laughing about the Sabertooth situation. Did you see the sweat on the big guy's face when Natsu asked to fight? Jet asked, laughing. Oh man, he was so nervous, Droy said, laughing with tears in his eyes. I could have bet you my house he was gonna piss himself, Ekaba joked. All their joking was cut short as the guild doors burst open, and a hurt Ultir and Murdy ran inside. In their arms was a sick-looking Jello. Natsu, help! Ultir screamed worriedly. Natsu ran over and looked at Jello. He looked very pale and he had a few wounds bandaged up. Jet, get Porliusica now. Come on, the infirmary's right here. Jet dashed out of existence, and in less than a minute was standing in the infirmary with a rattled doctor. What the hell, you brats? She screamed. Help him please, Natsu told her. She looked on the bed to see a heavy-breathing Jello. Walking over to him, she found his problem. He's been poisoned. What happened? She asked. A vampire bit him, Ultir said simply. A vampire? Natsu said, shocked. Yeah, he drained some of his blood too. We thought he was fine after we patched him up, but he collapsed after a while, she further explained. Speedy, take me back to my home. I have the necessary supplies there. Jet grabbed her, and they were gone for a few minutes before they were back, and she had tools and materials in her hands. Okay, out, all of you. They all walked out just in time to see Miliana bind Kagura in a cat bind. Let me go, Miliana, this is the time we've been eating for why we gained strength. It's been so long, Natsu almost forgot. Kagura's goal in life is to kill the man dying in the room behind him. Not anymore, Kagura. That hasn't been why I wanted to gain strength in a long time, Miliana said as she held Kagura down. Kagura grew angry at her words, and her magic started to surge under her confinement. Then you're just in the way, she said as she released a large wave of gravity destroying the pink ropes. She tried to run to the room, but Ultir got in her way. You want to kill Jelal? What for? She asked the purple-haired girl. He killed my brother Simon, so I'm gonna kill him, she said as she prepared to draw her sword on the woman. Then you should know I was the one who manipulated Jelal into doing those things, so you really want to kill me, Ultir explained. It took a moment for her words to register in Kagura's head, but when they did, all her bloodlust was aimed at the woman. She drew her sword, but only a fraction of it was pulled out before it was pushed back in. Looking up, she was truly shocked by who stood in front of her. "Natsu, why?" she questioned, almost sounding heartbroken. "I can't let you draw that in the guild, but more importantly, I can't let you kill her," he said, sounding apologetic. Kagura couldn't understand what was happening. First, her best friend tries to stop her, and now he of all people. What she really didn't understand was why it hurt her so much that he was protecting that woman from her. Why did it angered her so much? Why? "You promised to let me follow my revenge, and now when my life's purpose is in front of me, you're gonna stand in my way," she said as tears welled up in her eyes. Natsu looked hurt as he looked at her. And he never went back on a promise, but he just couldn't keep his word in this instance. "I'm sorry, Kagura, but if you want to kill her, you'll have to kill me first," he said seriously. "Natsu," Ultir said in awed shock and emotion. She didn't know Natsu cared for her so much. Kagura stared at the only wall that stood in her way, and all she had to do was cut it down, but she couldn't. Her hand shook on the handle of Archenemy as she stared into the eyes of Natsu. She knew she couldn't beat him, but right now she knew if she wanted to, she could kill him with one slash. But she couldn't do it. She let out a beastly scream as she ran out of the guild and into the forest. The sound of trees being destroyed could be heard in the distance. The guild was silent in shock as the scene that just played out in front of them. "Natsui!" Ultir tried to say something, but Natsu cut her off. "Don't. Happy come get me when Jelal wakes up," Natsu said as he ran in the direction Kagura went. The cat didn't say anything, just saluted his back. Kaori tried to go after him, but she was stopped by Laki. Not this time. It wasn't long before Natsu found Kagura cutting down another tree. "Kagura." She turned around with bloodshot eyes and she looked at him with hate. She knew she couldn't cut him, but that didn't mean she couldn't hit him at all. She pounced on him, dragging him to the ground and started to pound his face in. "You traitorous lying bastard," she screamed as she continued to punch him, while Natsu just let it happen. "You promised me, you promised." Natsu just sat there and took it. In his eyes, this was just a bit of what he deserved. He let Kagura down as her guild master, her friend, and most importantly her family. Being her punching bag was the least he could do. Eventually the punches started to slow down, but Natsu's face was already bloody by then. "Why?" Bam. "Why?" Bam. "Why?" Bam. Kagura eventually was just crying on his bloody chest. "Why won't you let me kill them?" she sobbed. Natsu wrapped his arms around and held her tightly as she shook from her sobs. "Because Ultir's a friend, and Jelal's is a friend of Erza's. But most importantly, it won't bring you anything," Natsu told her. "But I hate them. And without my revenge, who am I then? I've spent my whole life preparing for this. If I don't follow through, then who will I become after it?" she said into his chest. "You'll become who you've been for the last 4 years, a fairy tale mage. Someone who never gives in and looks towards the future. Someone we're all proud to call family," he told her. His tone told her that these are things he's always believed her to be. Kagura didn't know if she could give up her hate for them, especially Jelal. She spent a long time hating that name before she was even able to put a face to it, but she just might be able to give up her revenge if she stayed in Fairy Tail. If she stayed with him. She didn't know when she did it, but at some point her lips found his. The two locked in a heated kiss before she broke away. "I hate you, Natsu," she said before she passed out on his chest from exhaustion, physical and emotional. Natsu sighed and looked to the sky. "This is a tough gig, huh, old man?" he said to no one listening. Natsu carried Kagura to his home and laid her in his bed. When Natsu made it back to the guild, everyone looked at him worriedly. "Is Auntie Kagura gonna be okay, Papa?" Kaori asked what everyone was thinking. Natsu picked up his worried daughter with a bloody smile. "Yeah, she's gonna be just fine, sweetheart. In fact, she's spending the night with us," he said excitedly. "Yay, a sleepover!" Kaori clapped enthusiastically. The rest of the guild breathed a sigh of relief at Natsu's words. "What happened to your face, Daddy?" Kaori asked, confused, poking his bruises. She's never seen him hurt before. "Just fell is all, nothing serious, honey," he told her. It was an hour before poor Ryusuke came out of the infirmary. "He should be fine now. I patched up his other wounds too. He may wake up soon, but who knows." Ultir and Murdy sighed in relief. "Thank you, poor Ryusuke," I don't know how to repay you, Natsu said. Just don't disturb me for another 2 years and I'll call it fair, she said before the old doctor swiftly made her leave. Night was quickly coming, and people started to leave bit by bit. Soon the guild only had Ultir, Natsu, Murdy, and Laki. Happy took Kaori home, the two accompanied by a worried Miliana. Thank you for earlier, Natsu. But you didn't have to do that, Ultir told him. You don't have to thank me, Ul. You're important to me. I wasn't just gonna let her kill you, Natsu told her simply. Ultir ducked her head. But I deserved it, Ultir said through gritted teeth. Natsu scratched his head in frustration. Women were really causing him problems lately. Maybe at a certain point you did, and maybe then I would have let her kill you, but right now her killing you would have helped no one, he said, shutting her up. Ultir just started at him, annoyed at his thought process to look to the future and give people second chances. She didn't believe she deserved one, especially after seeing the pain in Kagura's eyes. Jellel's awake, he said as he walked to the infirmary. In the room, a groggy Jellel was waking, and he felt terrible. Ugh, where am I? He said, looking around. At Fairy Tale, Natsu said, as he walked in. Natsu, what happened? He asked. Natsu took a seat near his bedside. That's what I wanted to ask you. How did you almost die? I know from experience you're no slouch, Natsu said. Jellel scratched his head trying to remember what happened. Ugh. We were fighting a dark guild, another one dealing with human trafficking. I remember fighting the master and he bit my neck. And then, his eyes widened as if he remembered something. And then what? Natsu asked. Jellel abruptly grabbed him by the shoulders. They're coming. Natsu looked confused. Who's coming? The vampires. He said they were going to invade Magnolia soon, that it would be grounds for their new era. Natsu's eyes widened in shock as he stood up. What? Do you know when? Or how many? He asked almost in a panic. No. He just said it was happening someday soon, Jellel said. Natsu almost sighed in relief, but he had one thought. How long ago did you fight this guild? Natsu asked. Now. That was 2 days ago, Ultir said with dread. Abruptly, the ground started to shake around Magnolia. Every guild member felt it. Natsu and the others ran outside, and in the distance they could all see the top of a castle raising in the sky. With Natsu's acute hearing, he could hear a large group of footsteps growing closer. They're coming, get ready. In the forest, standing just outside the door of Natsu's home, was Happy, Kagura, Miliana, and Kaori. What is that? Happy asked, confused. It looks like a castle of some kind, Kagura replied. They didn't have time to keep contemplating as a group of 10 to 12 people showed up in front of them. Kagura put her hand on her sword as she laid eyes on them. Hey, I think these are Fairy Tale members, a nameless guy said. You're right, the whole guild are targets. Kill them, another one said. Multiple magic circles appeared and they attacked them. Boom. Is everyone okay? Happy asked. You could see a shield of flame over the group. Yes. Fine. Kagura said. Fine, Happy nya. Miliana answered. What about Kaori? Happy asked. I'm fine, Happy ni. Happy looked down at her and saw she had a small cut on her cheek. A small rock slipped through and cut her cheek. Happy saw red. He immediately turned towards the enemies with a harsh glare. Kagura, Miliana, protect Kaori, okay, he said with a steel voice. Happy floated in front of them, transforming into his human form, and landed on his feet. I don't know who you guys are, but I don't care anymore. You hurt my sister. You're gonna pay. Happy said as his book opened and all of his fairies spilled out, each one having an angry aura. Is Happy ni gonna be okay? Kaori questioned, worried. She's never seen him fight before. Kagura and Miliana both smiled in confidence. You big brother is one of the strongest mages in Fairy Tale. He'll be just fine. The nameless people laughed at Happy's decoration, seemingly not worried. You think you can kill us? We're vampires serving under the Great King. And after we kill you, that town behind you will be ours, he said, arrogantly. It didn't seem like Happy listened though. As 5 fire blast hit the man's allies, burning them on tick, they were nothing but ash. I guess fire really is a weakness. And I don't care who you guys are. I'm gonna make you regret what you did to Kaori, Happy said as his fire fairy started to gather magic power. Flash fire. A scorching wave of flame shot from the fairy's hands. The vampires didn't have time to dodge or run, and it engulfed turning them all to ash. Happy ni is so strong, Kaori said, clapping. We have to go. If what they said is true, then the town is in danger, Kagura said. Really? Happy questioned. Kagura looked at him like he was crazy. Yes, he just told you, did you forget? She exclaimed. All I heard was vampires and decided to burn them. I could really go for some fish right now though. Kagura punched him in the head. There's no time for stupid fish. As Happy was rubbing his head, small tears in his eyes, he heard footsteps fast approaching. Dodging to the right, he narrowly escaped a punch that looked like it would have done serious damage if the crater bit made was anything to go by. Who are you? He asked the newcomer. The guy smiled excitedly. I'm an apostle of the king, and you just ashed my troops. The least I could do is pay you back for it, the guy said. Happy eyes were sharp as he sized up the guy. He could definitely tell he was stronger than the group he just took care of. He looked to be early 20s. His skin was paler than pale, and his red hair went down to his lower back. Guys, take Kaori out of here and protect her. Kagura kept her eyes on the man as she addressed Happy. You sure this guy doesn't look weak? She said. Why, nah, I'm not. The man replied. Yeah, I'm sure. Protect Kaori, I'll be fine. Happy said, smiling at them. Kaori stuck her little arms out at Happy's back in worry. Happy knee, she said. He looked at her, his smile still present. Don't do anything stupid and stay with your aunts. You know what your dad will do if you disobey. Right, he said jokingly. She nodded her head quickly and clung to Miliana. Kagura nodded to him, and the three were gone. Happy let out a breath he was holding and looked at the enemy. Truth was, he was worried. Despite all his strength, he hasn't been in many fights before. You done? The man asks. Happy's ears twitched at his voice, and he jumped. Ah, I forgot you were here, he said. The man shook his head, but didn't look bothered. It's fine, I wanted to let you have your moment. He said. Thanks for that. Happy said. Least I could do since you're all gonna die soon anyway. Fairy Tail is one of our main targets right now. What for? Happy questioned. King's orders. My name is Russ Stone. And you? The now identified Russ said. Happy Dragneel Strauss. Happy said, using his full name for the first time in a long time. The man looked intrigued. Any relation to Natsu Dragneel? He asked him. He's my father. Russ smiled and cleaned his fist in excitement. This should be fun then. He said. Happy sighed. Maybe for one of us, he said under his breath, as the two clashed, starting their battle. Back in Magnolia, the town looked like a war zone. At least 100 vampires were running throughout. Most were capturing humans. But the others, they were being taken care of by Fairy Tail, Falcon Heavenward, Green Knuckle. Jet unleashed a high sleep flying kick that sent a dozen of them through already destroyed buildings, while Droy did the same. Why do these guys keep getting up? Jet asked. I don't know, it's like they're healing or something, Droy replied. Hey, look at their skin, it's like Nico's and Luke's. You don't think these guys could be vamps, do you? Jet asked. Droy's face turned serious as he turned to his partner. I don't know, it seems kinda racist to say. Jet fell over at the words. The hell are you talking about? These guys are trying to kill us and you're worried about discrimination, Jet screamed at him. I'm just saying, trying to identify them like that seems like a lot. Plus we have Nico and Luke in the guild. I don't want to lump them in with these guys. Jet almost blew a gasket at his friend's reply. The enemy's sweat dropped as the two argued over if Jet was being racist or not. You two? One of them said. What? Jet and Droy screamed back at him, making him jump in fright. We are vampires. Oh, thanks for clearing that up, Jet said before he turned back to Droy. Do you remember their weaknesses? Because I don't. Dory shook his head no. The vampire smiled at the apparent upper hand and charged at them. Bang 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 bang. 6 shots rang out, and 6 out of the group of vampires dropped and turned to ash. Eden Hart fellas. On a roof with a smoking pistol was Biska Mulan grinning down at them. Biska, you two ready to go vampire huntin'? She asked. Jet and Droy smiled as they turned to the enemy. Tempest kick. Plant spears. Jet lashed out in a kick so fast the vamps couldn't even see it, and before they knew it, a wave of sharp wind beheaded a group of them. Droy threw his seeds and out of them shaped veins appeared, and impaled them through the chest, killing them. Boom! In the distance near Fairy Tail, a large ball of fire was seen, making the three smile. Biska reloaded her gun and aimed. It seems like tonight is gonna get wild. Chapter 10. Night Assault, Part 2. Natsu and Co. were surrounded by at least 50 vampires. It's the fairy tale guild master. If we kill him, the king will reward us." One of them screamed. The group all started to laugh and whistle in excitement. Natsu could hear the screams of the people being taken by the vampires, and that angered him. A pillar of fire wrapped around him and the group. With a wave of his hand, the fire extended outward and killed the group around him. His fire was abruptly stopped and he turned to see a man standing there. "That was really impressive," the man said, clapping his hands. "Just what I expected from someone called the Salamander." He said, "What's the deal here? Why are you guys invading Magnolia?" Natsu yelled at him. The man looked like he was really thinking of an answer to his question. I guess. Convenience," he said simply. If Natsu wasn't angry before, he was now. "Convenience," he yelled, flames sparking from his mouth. "So you're saying you're capturing the humans and destroying the town because it's convenient?" Natsu questioned him, enraged. "Yeah. We needed to capture some territory, and it was the closest town to us. Any town would have done," the man explained. Natsu was ready to charge the man, but he had to calm himself and think about the situation in the town. He could feel the guild fighting, but it was at least 100 vampires running around the city, too many to stop them all. Houses and shops were already being destroyed, and people were being kidnapped all over. "Lucky, go help the town, while I deal with this guy," he told her. "Of course, Natsu," she said with no hesitation. "I'm going to, Natsu," Altair said. They turned to leave, but Jalal dropped to his knees. Natsu took his eyes off the enemy to see what happened, and that was a mistake. Bam! The vampire ran over and with a fist coating in rock, sucker punched Natsu. He flew away, but quickly caught himself and spit out some blood. The vampire turned his attention to the rest of the group, but Natsu wouldn't allow that. The vampire was hit with an iron dragon fist that broke his jaw. "Jalal, stay in the guild, you're too hurt," Natsu told the blue-haired man. "No, I can still." He was cut off before he could continue. "And you'd just be in the way, regain your strength and come back later," Altair told him. "Murdy, stay with him and protect him." Murdy put a frustrated Jalal on her shoulder and carried him back into the guild hall. The vampire's jaw healed, and he smiled at Natsu with anger in his eyes. Stone spears. 10 spears made of stone were shot at Natsu. Another wave of fire was shot from Natsu's body and melted the spears mid-air. The fire traveled all the way to the shocked vampire and he erected a rock shield in response, but it broke under the force. The man let out a nervous laugh as he saw the power he was facing. Before Natsu could follow up, he was attacked from behind by someone else, dodging blades of wind that left deep cuts on the ground. He watched as a girl landed next to his enemy. "You're an embarrassment to the apostles, Ice," she told him emotionlessly. "Cut me some slack, the guy's no pushover," the man said. "What's an apostle?" Natsu asked. "They're the strongest vampires under the king's command," the man called Ice readily explained. The woman hit him over the head. "Don't give the enemy information on us," she said, her face still expressionless. "You're the one who said apostle," Ice told her. On her face you could see a small blush being formed. "How many of them are there?" Natsu asked them. 10%, Ice quickly answered him. "Thanks for that," Natsu said as he charged both of them. The girl sent more wind blades at him that Natsu dodged with ease, but an earth pillar was easier under his feet, shooting him in the air. "Now Betty." The woman, now identified as Betty, took a great leap, reaching Natsu in an instant. Sharp wind coiled around her hand. Blade fist. Her punch was matched by Natsu's own flaming punch. Natsu was pretty obviously winning, but his arm was being cut by the wind. Betty made wind wings to keep afloat in the sky, and flapped them hard, sending more wind blades at Natsu that cut his face and the guild behind him. When he heard the wood of the guild being destroyed, Natsu's anger returned, and his flame showed that. Fire Dragon's Talon. Natsu, using his flaming heel, kicked her back into the ground right next to Ice. "With flames in my right hand, and flames in my left hand." Fire Dragon's brilliant flame. He sent a large fireball to the ground, engulfing the two of them. He heard their screams of pain and smiled in satisfaction. When he landed on the ground, the two were gone, and Ash was in their place. "Papa!" Turning around, he saw his daughter running to him with a smile on her face, Kagura and Miliana behind her. Natsu let his guard down at her expression. He learned to never do it again. An earth spear whizzed past him, cutting his sides, and Kaori was running right into the spear. Natsu watched the scene in slow motion, his shock freezing him in place. He started to run, but it was too late. The spear had already hit her. "Kaori!" And bounce off. A barrier was made around the girl, and the spear bounced off it, saving her from any damage. When Natsu got to her, he dropped to his knees and hugged her. "Are you okay?" he asked as he checked her over. "I'm fine, Papa," she said, smiling at him. Natsu stood up, his body shielding his daughter. Kaori couldn't feel the aura her father was producing. To her it just felt like the same warmth he always put out. But Kagura and Miliana could, and they were scared. "Cover her eyes." Kagura covered the girl's eyes, much to her confusion. Natsu turned around to see a badly burned Ice. Natsu could see the burns were healing slowly. Ice could be seen with true fear on his face, as he stared into the eyes of the Dragon Slayer. He tried to run, but his feet were stuck in place. "Wait, Ice sir." That was all he could say or do before Natsu had him by his neck. He was slammed on the ground multiple times before Natsu stopped. He then started to pound him into the ground with flaming fists, paying attention to not hit his heart. To his two guildmates watching, Natsu could only say he looked like a real beast. He wasn't saying anything, and the only noises he made were enraged growls and screams. Natsu himself wasn't only beating him out of anger towards him, he wasn't doing it out of frustration to himself. He let his guard down, and his daughter almost paid the price. He eventually let up his hands stained with the blood of his victim. He was still alive, of course. Natsu started to charge magic in his stomach, getting ready to release his signature attack. Fire Dragon's Roar. Natsu's attack ashed Ice on the spot. He walked back over to the shocked Kagura and Miliana, and picked up his daughter and hugged her close. "I'm sorry, Kaori." She didn't understand why he was apologizing. "What for, Papa?" she asked. "You almost got hurt because of me," he told her. "But I'm not, so it's fine, right?" she said, smiling at him. Natsu smiled and let out a small laugh. "Right." Natsu looked around and noticed someone was missing. "Where's Happy?" "He's fighting in the woods against someone called an apostle. He told us to protect Kaori." "I'm sorry, Natsunia," Miliana said with her head down. "It's fine, like Kaori said, she's fine," he told her. Even though he said it was fine, both of them knew it wasn't, but they would never let it happen again. With a bit of struggle, he handed his daughter to Miliana. "Keep her safe," he told them both. They both nodded with fire in their eyes. "Okay, let's go clean up." Happy was annoyed. He just wanted to eat fish and go to sleep tonight. But he couldn't even eat his fish before a castle appeared, and now he's in a fight for his life next to his burned down home. "Yeah. He found out this guy has magma magic." "You're pretty good, Happy Dragneel Strauss," Russ said as Happy dogged another one of his magma-covered punches. The two were in the middle of a high-speed battle through the rapidly burning forest. On Happy's fur you could see electric sparks fading in and out. "Thanks, I guess?" Happy replied back as he sent two lightning bolts from his hands at him. Russ made a shield of magma that easily blocked the bolts, but he didn't expect Happy to literally come flying in with an ice-covered fist. Happy's two-pronged attack worked, and he struck his enemy in the face, sending him flying through the trees they were fighting in. Happy, with his wings still present, flew after him, his flame and wind fairies charging up an attack. Russ regained his footing in time to see what was coming. "Flame Cyclone," Happy called out, and a flaming tornado was sent towards Russ. In response, he rolled out of the way and sent his own attack at Happy, which the Blue Exceed barely dodged, the trees behind him being burned down and adding to the forest fire. Happy hissed in pain as the magma burned part of his side. Looking down at the wound, he could already see a burn starting to form. His ears twitched, and on instinct he moved his head to the left, and felt a heat pass over him in the form of a magma fist. Happy jumped back and gained some distance from him. He could see the wound he inflicted was already healing. Happy sucked his teeth in frustration. He had to do more damage and fast, or he knew he was a goner. His body let out a faint glow and his lightning fairy flew out his body, and the wind fairy took its place. Merge wind body. As a faint glow overtook Happy, it looked as though a fantastic breeze surrounded his form. Happy rushed him, and the two clashed, magma and wind. Boom! A shockwave rang out, knocking down trees around them. Russ was shocked to see the wind was protecting Happy from his magma. Happy's face on the outside showed confidence, but in his mind he was screaming, "Oh my god, that actually worked, I thought my hands were gone." Happy was using the wind on his body the same way Edgar did during the lullaby mission. If you looked closely at their clashed hands, you could see the wind separating their hands by an inch. Now that he could actually fight without worrying about losing his hands, the two engaged in a heated exchange. Even though Russ had more experience in hand-to-hand, with all the time Happy fought and spared Natsu, he was just barely able to keep up. Russ was still able to break through his wind guard. He grabbed his wrist, making Happy scream in pain. Russ gripped his wrist tightly, burning it thoroughly. He made sure he stayed in place and sent a magma fist to his face. Happy, seeing it coming, still couldn't get his arm loose. He pushed wind from his feet and flipped his body straight up. Russ was still holding his wrist, and when Happy dodged, he turned his attention to him, ready to attack again, which was a mistake. The sound of piercing flesh was heard throughout the forest. Russ dropped Happy in pain as he looked down to see a trident made of ice through his stomach. Happy didn't let him rest and landed another attack on him. Divine lighting. A magic circle appeared above a shocked Russ, and a large bolt of lightning shot down and fried him. Happy took time to catch his breath. He held his charred arm in pain as his ice fairy appeared and soothed the pain. He could barely move it without yelping in pain. Huff, huff, tough. I need some fish now, that was hard, Happy said as he turned to walk away, holding his arm in pain. This fight isn't over yet, Happy dragged Neil Strauss. Happy didn't get a chance to say or do anything, because as soon as his body turned, a chunk of his side was taken out. Red Hound. A dog made of magma bit a chunk of his side out. Happy screamed in pain as he fell over. Russ tried to capitalize on the moment, but he was bombarded by the elements, keeping him still. Happy was in the ground, wheezing in pain as the ice fairy worriedly froze over the spot that was taken out, which temporarily patched his wound. After it patched him, the fairy was making noises and pushing his face as if telling him to get up and fight. But Happy felt like he couldn't do it. He felt too weak. A piece of his side was gone. He might as well just give up, right? Flashback. Natsu and Happy taking a break from training in the north. Why do I want to get stronger? Happy asked, looking confused. Yeah, you've been training really hard. You've never shown too much interest in it before, even when I asked you. Natsu explained his question. Happy looked like he thought for a second. I don't want to just stand by and watch anymore, he said with heavy conviction. But you never stood by before. You were always there with me, Natsu told him. Yeah, I'm there, but I'm just watching while you and everyone else deal with the bad guys. I want to help. I want to fight too. I don't want to be weak anymore, he explained. Natsu tilted his head, still confused. You're not weak, Happy. You're just not strong. Happy looked like he was gonna explode. What the hell does that mean? Happy struggled to stand, but the adrenaline he had running through his body gave him more strength. His book started to glow, and the handle of a weapon appeared from its pages. The hilt of the handle was mostly blue while the bottom was purple. As Happy pulled it from the page, you could see the blade was black and the edge was an ocean blue. Happy held the sword in a sloppy stance as he breathed in heavily. The fairies were still holding off Russ as he charged him and cut across his chest. Whoa, crazy sword, Russ said as he dodged backwards. He was also breathing as heavy as Happy. A lot of his energy was spent healing that stomach wound and the lightning blast. Anyone seeing the two could see the fight was coming to an end soon. It's called salmon, Happy said. Happy was a little worried. His sword drained him a lot and he didn't have much left to give. But he was determined. Fighting on a time limit, he rushed Russ again, water coiling around the blade. They clashed once more, the water and magma surprisingly equal. They started an exchange, and Happy soon started to overpower him. Cuts started appearing all over Russ's body and they weren't healing. Happy thrusted his sword forward, trying to hit his heart. Russ actually took the attack, but not in the heart. He redirected the thrust into his stomach and delivered a magma-covered fist to Happy's face. Happy took the attack and delivered one of his own. Twisting his sword, water exploded out from the blade, blowing another hole in Russ's stomach. Happy jumped back out of range and started to charge a finishing move. Russ, even with a hole in his stomach, did the same. Call of the Ocean. Around Happy's sword, a school of fish started to swirl. Hounds of Hades. A magic circle appeared behind Russ, and a large three-headed dog appeared from it, growling and melting the ground beneath it. Happy rushed forward, the school of fish swimming behind him, while Russ sent the hound running towards him. Happy clashed with the magma, the fish behind him swimming into it, wearing it down. Crack. Happy didn't notice, but his sword started to crack during the clash. He eventually cut down the dog and appeared in front of the apostle, ready to cut his head off. He swung, but the sword disappeared in his hands. Russ thought he was dead, but once he saw the sword disappear, he charged up another attack to seemingly kill Happy. Eruption Fist. What looked like a large magma fist was made, and he sent it at Happy. The blue-haired boy was failing from the lack of strength. He saw the attack coming, but he couldn't dodge, so he did the only thing he could do. In a plume of smoke, Happy's body grew smaller as he went back to his true form, throwing off the vampire's aim. The attack narrowly missed the cat, his fur being burned in the process. Happy trained his eyes on Russ's heart. Charging all the magic he could, he shot a wind arrow right into it. A whistle was heard as the arrow passed through. Happy fell to the ground, all his strength leaving his body. Russ stood there, a hole where his heart used to be. He looked down at the blue cat as he was fading away. "You really are strong, Happy Dragneel Strauss," was his last words before he faded away forever. Happy was on the ground, barely awake anymore. He started to crawl in the direction of the town, but he didn't have any strength to keep going. His fairies faded back into the book as his consciousness left. He laid there in the burning forest, a dying cat, the only thing beating witness to his battle being an old doctor, Natsu. Paralyzing poison. Kinana released purple poison from her hands that halted the movements of the group of vampires in front of her and Sue. Mirror blasts. Sue, right next to her, let loose multiple magic blasts from her mirrors, killing them. Sue breathed a sigh of relief as she turned to Kinana. "How many of these guys are there?" she asked. "Who knows? Let's just take out as many as we can. We need to mitigate the damage to the town," Kinana explained to her. Sue looked out at the town from where they were with a grim face. "I don't know how much more of it we can save," she said as she watched the town in flames. Kinana's brow furrowed as she looked at the town she learned to call home over the last 5 years. "Yeah, I know." The two ran into the destroyed town, not knowing that this was going to be a very long night. In the new boys' dormitory, Fairy Mountain, Nico, Fubuki, Luke, and Bose were all fighting hordes of vampires. "Hey Nico, Luke, you know these guys," Fubuki said, as he cut off the heads of 3 vampires with a large axe. "Why should I?" Nick said as he dodged being grabbed from behind. "Well, you're vampires, they're vampires," Bose explained, as wind blew away a group of them. "I think that's racist," Luke said, as punched a vampire in its face. "Yeah, Luke, that is racist," Nico agreed. "Is it?" Fubuki asked. "Yeah, it." Nico's words were cut short as he was impaled by shadows. "Nico!" They all screamed. Fubuki rushed the man who appeared out of thin air and stabbed his friend. The man dodged his axe swing as Nico dropped the ground in pain. The man smiled as he looked at the enraged snow user. "Bro!" Luke screamed. Nico's head shot up to see his little brother being sucked into a shadow by the same man who stabbed him. "Luke!" he screamed as he hopped up, but he was blocked by more vampires. "Out of the way," he said as he cut them down with sharp blood. Shadow Nebula. The man sent a spiraling dark blast at the 3 of them, which Nico blocked. Fubuki sped past for an attack. "Fubuki, stop him please," Nico yelled at him as Luke's body was sinking further and further into the shadow. The man made another attack, this time not at them. Dark Cleaver. A large blade of darkness split the building in 2, stopping the Fubuki in his tracks, while also making it start to collapse. Crash! The building collapsed on them, burying them under the rubble. The 3 of them popped up from the rubble at the same time as the rest of the other vampires. But the shadow user and Luke were nowhere to be found. "Luke! Let me go, you bastard," Luke said as he struggled in his captor's arms. He was being carried through the corridors of the castle towards a specific room, opening large double doors. Luke laid eyes on a tall, intimidating man. Luke could tell this guy was different from everyone else. "My king, I've captured one of the half-breeds," the man holding him said with respect. The man turned around, a smile on his face as he locked eyes with him. He had wavy white hair that just reached his shoulders, his eyes were sharp, and he had piercing red pupils characteristic of his race. With a small mustache and beard paired with his clothes, he gave off a noble air. "Good." His voice was light, but his words still held tremendous weight that sent a chill up Luke's spine. "You know Fairy Tail's gonna come for me, and when they do they'll kick your asses," Luke said confidently. They carried him to a chair and strapped him down. "What are you?" His words were cut off by a scream as his arms were stabbed. Tubes were connected to his arms, and his blood started to be drained bit by bit. "What are you doing?" he asked in pain. "We need your blood so we can power our machine. Half-breed blood is stronger and carries more magical properties than ours. You could almost say you're more of a vampire than us," the king explained. "A machine?" Luke questioned as he felt the uncomfortable feeling of his blood was being sucked out. "We're gonna turn the people of Magnolia into vampires. Vampires are close to extinct now. The 1,000 that reside in this castle are the last left," the king said with a bitter and angry look. "That's not gonna work. Fairy Tail's gonna stop you." "Yeah, we'll see about that," the king said. How long will this take, Kassan? The king asked the vampire handling Luke's blood. Probably 6 hours? Maybe more since he's still small. We'll have to refill him a few times. Kassan explained. Good, get started. In Magnolia, the vampires were pulling back, much to the confusion and relief of the guild and townspeople. In front of Fairytale, the guild met up to talk about what happened. Is everyone okay? Natsu asked the guild. Yes, master. Natsu sighs in relief. How many people are still in town? Natsu questioned. I don't know, but we could do a head count. Laki suggested. Warren, get on that. The telepath nodded his head in response. Before anything else could happen, a barrier fell over the entire area of Magnolia. What is that? Biska questioned. It looks like a barrier or something. Master. They all turned to see a frantic Nico, Fubuki and Bose running towards them. Guys, you're okay. They took Luke. Shock overtook Natsu's face. What? They skidded to a stop in front of him. Some guy destroyed the dorms and took Luke into his shadow. Nico explained. We have to go get him. Natsu gave a frustrated and angry noise as he thought about what happened. He couldn't just charge in this time like he wants to. He has to think of the safety of the guild. We will just not right now. Nico and the rest of the guild looked shocked at his words. But why? It could be a trap. Plus, if they took him, they more than likely aren't gonna kill him. We need more information first before we charge in. If not, we could all be in danger and we won't be able to help him, Natsu explained to him. Nico gritted his teeth but walked into the guild. Natsu sighed as he cleaned his fist. Eating when someone important was in danger, it went against him. But he had to put the guild first. But he'd make sure the vampires paid for this. Where's Happy? Thank you for watching the video. Please check out other content from the channel. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.